Thanks, Daniel. A list of clod-hopping no-hopers are jostling for the spotlight in the worst talent show this country has ever seen, including the ones with Simon Cowell on the panel. The Tory membership think that Suella Braverman is the best choice to lead their party, so someone should take away their car keys, make them a hot chocolate, and sit them in front of a television. I don't think you'd even need to turn it on. They'd be entertained by the voices in their heads. Meanwhile, in America, Donald Trump is having a fit you could see from space because polls are showing he might lose to a woman. His cause not helped by his vice presidential pick, who has started a war with America's favourite woman. That and more coming up with me, Nick Abbott, after the new news at 10 on LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
Hi, honey. How are you?
You know, some whack job can say this stuff and get away with it?
Texts and tweets and such from last night. Tristan says, oh, great. My first holiday for 10 years ends tonight, and I missed the heat wave. All I wanted was to sit in the baking sun and burn and endure significant pain and peeling skin and the honour of saying, gosh, it's too hot. But no, instead I'll be driving in my air-conditioned car stuck in traffic, pumping out fumes to pollute the atmosphere. Thanks a lot, Meghan Markle, he says. Yeah, thanks a lot, Meghan Markle. No! You see what you've done? The Wicked Witch of the West strikes again. Is there nothing she will not do to ruin our lives? She took our poor baby away. Emma says, I had glandular fever at the beginning of May. Hey, Emma.
Stop whining.
She says, I am fully recovered apart from my voice. It's been in hiding for 12 weeks now. So frustrating. I feel your pain, says Emma. Sue says, oh, yes, it got better. It being the opening ceremony last night. No, I still haven't seen it yet. I'm going to force myself to watch it next week. Oh, yes, it got better, says Sue. Only small criticism was Gaga and the soloists, the opera, the ballet dancer, the pianist, the opera-singing French national anthem that were performing by daylight and it got lost. Who got lost? Each should have had some decent lighting and spotlights. Apart from that, it was all terrific, says Sue. Well, it seems to have upset all of the right people, so it gets my vote. The Daily Mail was freaking out about it, so it gets my vote, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Whatever it was. Yvonne says, about J.D. Vance, he's like the man who begun the Salem witch trials. Lone women with cats were mentioned then. Yeah, this guy. Yeah, are you beginning to have buyer's remorse, Donald Trump?
Oh, shut up!
Yeah, I bet if you could think it out again, that he'd make a different choice. This guy's nuts. The cat thing. I mean, of all the women in the world, he's picked a fight with America's sweetheart. The Republican vice presidential nominee, J.D. Vance's remarks about the U.S. being run by a bunch of childless cat ladies are a few years old. The comments have been going viral since the former president, Donald Trump, chose the Ohio senator as his running mate for the presidential election. The statements made during a Tucker Carlson Tonight interview. And you don't... If you wish to be amused, you don't actually have to watch the interview. Just look at a picture of Tucker Carlson. He looks like a man who is... What's the medical phrase? Straining at stool while he's doing his television show. He's got that look on his face that's exactly that. He looks like straining and perplexed and confused, as though he's... It's like he's just been hit in the head and he's woken up on television and is trying to figure out what's happening. Most bizarre man. They're all bizarre. The statements made during a Tucker Carlson Tonight interview that aired on Fox News in July 2021 have riled up people on both sides of the aisle and sparked backlash from celebrities, including but not limited to Jennifer Aniston. This is what this guy, the guy with the eyeliner, said. I mean, look at a picture of J.D. Vance. Tell me he's not wearing eyeliner. He says, we are effectively running this country by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices they've made, so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. He said, it's just a basic fact. Oh, well, it's just a basic fact. Well, you should have said that right at the beginning. He says, you look at Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children. Just a brief Google search will tell you that 2/3 of the people he just mentioned do have children. He said, and how does it make any sense that they've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it? I'll sum that argument up for you. That man is cracked. Everyone has a stake in the future as long as they intend to live in it. And besides, does fostering children count as having children? Because if not, that's a pretty warped view, which gives superior citizenship based on reproductive ability. 2/3 of the people that Vance mentioned as childless actually have children. And Vance addressed the backlash he was received in an interview on another right-wing TV show. He said, obviously, it's a sarcastic comment. I don't know, you look at that man say anything, and there's nothing sarcastic about him. He believes all this stuff, or has convinced himself that he believes it. He's convinced himself that this is what you say for money. It's probably more like it. He said, I've got nothing against cats. Yeah, that's not the point, though. You ocean-going chump. It's not the cat's part. It's the ladies' part. What people have a problem with. The vice presidential candidate took the opportunity to reiterate that believes the Republican Party is pro-family and claimed the Democrats are an anti-child party, which is so dribblingly silly. It's barely worth commenting on. But I'll go ahead and do it anyway. Which is the party that wants the mentally ill to have access to weapons of mass destruction? To have access to army weapons. Which one? The same army weapons that are the weapon of choice for the mass shooter. You know, the ones that roam school corridors, picking off kids one by one. And, by the way, it's the same party that wants to take medical care away from pregnant women. If you can't pay, then you don't get to go to hospital. And so he picked a fight with Jennifer Aniston, because Jennifer Aniston looked at this, and she's a lady that's tried to have children with little success. And she said, basically, I cannot believe that a man who is aiming to be the vice president of the United States would come out with this sort of guff. And, of course, J.D. Vance backed down and he apologised profusely. No, of course he didn't, because that's not who these people are. He did the Donald Trump thing and he doubled down. Picking a fight with Jennifer Aniston. Jennifer Aniston! I mean, who's he going to pick on next? Dolly Parton? These people are cracked. We are effectively running this country by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices they've made. I think it's called projection. Everything that he and Trump and people like him say about other people is a self-confession. You know, crooked Joe Biden, all of that. Sure, Joe Biden is the one that's crooked, Donny. Okay. Josie says, my sister and I have watched the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games. So boring. We are hoping it would pick up pace, but sadly no. I'm married to a Frenchman and can't tell you what he thought of it. Mon Dieu, says Josie. Adrian says, we should have had an IQ qualification to vote on Brexit. We'd still be in the EU. Well, that's not entirely untrue. I mean, I do happen by coincidence to have the statistics in front of me. Can you believe that?
No.
Yeah. And those with a qualification of degree level, by 74% to 26%, wanted to remain in the European Union. Those who have no qualification at all wanted to leave the European Union by almost the same amount. And there's 5 levels of qualification in between, and the less you have, the more you wanted to leave the European Union. So you may have said that as a joke, Adrian, but you are, in fact, quite possibly completely correct in every respect. That's not going to upset anybody, is it?
No. I'm
just telling you the truth, that's all. But you can't handle the truth. Daniel says, the most successful thing that Trump has ever done, President of the United States, maybe. The most successful thing that Trump has ever done, President of the United States, maybe. I don't really get where you're coming from with that. I think the most successful thing that Donald Trump has ever done is to persuade people that he's a successful businessman by playing one on a television game show. Other than that, he's the most presidential person in history.
I can be more presidential than anybody.
Than anybody, yeah. Paul says, if you're such an expert, make an actual prediction. Kamala or Trump? Okay, Kamala. I'm going to go Kamala Harris. I think Kamala Harris is going to win the presidential election in November. I'll bet you £5, Paul. And there's no expertise about it. I just got a feeling. We're all about feelings now, baby. Steve says Trump will not win. Steve says Trump will not win the election, although he will claim that it was stolen. Yeah, because he'll whine about it forever.
I am the most fabulous whiner. And I'm a whiner, and I keep whining and whining.
Oh, it'll be painful.
I'm a whiner, and I keep whining and whining.
Over and over again. That whiny voice of his. And he'll keep reminding us about his ear as well. Oh. I've had worse paper cuts. What is he talking about? Oh, and he's having a fit about the FBI, who suggested that he didn't get hit by a bullet at all. That's the word that I got. At the very moment that the bullets were whizzing through the air, I had a reporter on the phone from America with word from the inside, you know. The inside, those guys with the headphones in their ear. Speaking into their cuffs. Those guys. Yeah, there's a little piece of glass, Donny. Stop whining. Jim says, whoever claimed that the Paris 2024 Olympics opening ceremony was the worst ever must have been watching a different ceremony to the one I saw. I thought it was brilliant, says Jim. And the feelings of one world happiness, tolerance and peace that it demonstrated demonstrated so well were an inspiration. Well, he sounds like a part of the wokerati to me. He sounds like one of the okie cokies to me.
Okie dokie.
Yeah. You're not a snowflake by any chance, are you, Jim? Stefan says the opening ceremony, the Olympic opening ceremony, they look like they spent the whole $100 budget. All 100 euros, not dollars. And Chris says, do you remember when the late Queen took part in the 2012 Olympics with Daniel Craig as Mr. Bond? That was good. Yes, Chris. Of course I remember it. I'm not that completely befuddled and doddery. I remember it like it was yesterday. Threw herself out of a helicopter, she did. I mean, that's patriotic, that is. Chucking yourself out of a helicopter, and we appreciate it, Your Majesty. I mean, I know it was just for a little laugh, and when the camera was in Buckingham Palace and James Bond walked in and you could see the back of her and you thought, no, that's not her, is it? And then she turned around and it was. Memories, what memories? I can almost recall them. 0345 6060 973, text 84850, email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10, Nick Abbott, LBC.
This is LBC. This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet @LBC. Text 84850.
Nobody knows who the hell he is.
Maurice texts, J.D. Vance has just half-heartedly apologised for his cat lady comments. No, he didn't. But he doubled down, says Maurice, on saying that the Democratic Party is run by people who are anti-family and anti-kids. So here's my question. If Mr. Vance is so concerned about the future, particularly for his own 3 children, what's his position on climate change? Does he want a planet for his kids to be able to live on? No prizes for guessing the answer. Yeah, that's right. When it comes to climate change or guns, you can't take your guns, then they're not really anti-death at all. They're anti-family and anti-kids when it comes to guns and climate change. You take your guns. Graham says the New York Times has done an analysis which says it is highly likely it was a bullet that which skimmed Trump's ear, and they are hardly friends of Trump. In any case, what does it really matter? Well, it really matters because Donald Trump is A, making himself out to be a hero, which he flat out isn't, obviously, And he's making out to be a hero that was personally saved by God. That's why it matters, because the pretend religionists will suck that up. They'll use it as proof that Donald Trump was sent by God to save us. And they are actually saying those words. That's not an exaggeration. People are actually saying those words. Donald Trump was sent by God, by Jesus. That's what they're saying. I mean, you know. If you think this country has just gone through 14 crazy years, just look at America. Lucy says the Tories are still so dependent on if the Tories are still so dependent on mendacity, perhaps Pinocchio should be their next leader. While, Pinocchio is otherwise engaged. What they actually want is Suella Braverman. Can you believe that? Right-wing Tory MP Suella Braverman's bid to replace Titchy Suitsize as Tory leader may come to an end before it even begins, despite huge support among ordinary party members. And I think that word ordinary is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. Nothing ordinary about them. The Independent writes that the former Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, is struggling to get the 10 MPs needed to put her on the ballot paper to become the next Conservative leader, as right-wing Brexiteers look at Robert Jenrick as an alternative candidate. What? The bloke who hates cartoons? Oh, no. That guy. Allies have warned that a Stop Suella campaign is running among parliamentarians because of the uncomfortable truths she spoke about the state of the party and her enormous support among ordinary members. And from this moment on, I'll just waggle my fingers in the air to denote inverted commas around the word ordinary. Among ordinary members. You know, those people. Allies have warned that a Stop Suella campaign is running among parliamentarians because of uncomfortable truths she spoke about the state of the party. Yeah, or it might be because she has as much chance of getting them elected as a festering sore. Are you kidding me? A survey by the Conservative Post has been sent to 14,000 verified registered party members with dramatic results. From the first 3,000-odd respondents, Braverman was picked up by more than 1,000 votes as the best leader, well ahead of the former business secretary, Kemi Badenoch, in second place with just over 400. Well, she got a third, Braverman. The two centrist One Nation candidates of the left of the party, left, James Cleverly, and I'm going to have to use those inverted commas around the word cleverly again, and Tom Tugendhat. They're both trailing in the last two places with less than 300 people. So the ones that you might think, if you really screwed your eyes up, are borderline sensible. The Conservative membership, they're not remotely interested in those people. They only want the ones that go... They only want those people. Suella Braverman being top of their list. Tip-toppermost. The contrast between MPs of the Conservative Party and the members of the Conservative Party appears to show that there is a rift between the two groups, and that rift is widening. Braverman's right-wing rhetoric is popular among members, but MPs have claimed that she is too toxic to win over the wider public. The Tory party members think that she's not toxic enough. Here is a short list of things that Braverman has said in order to get headlines. She's supported the Rwanda deportation scheme as being her dream. She actually said that. It seems like we're talking about a different world and a different time and a different place, isn't it? Getting people off the ground and sending them to Rwanda was her dream. It's all she's ever hoped for. Her description of pro-Gaza supporters as hate marchers, the ones with the peace signs, hate marchers. Her call to take away homeless people's tents went down very, very well with Conservative Party members who only own a tent for their kids to go to Glastonbury. Her claim that the LGBTQ plus flag represented child mutilation, which left her physically repulsed, and her description of immigrants arriving on small boats as an invasion. All of these things Tory MPs think are just a little bit too, for the general public to vote for, but Tory party members, I think, is, not right-wing enough. And supporters have warned that keeping Braverman off the ballot paper will be the last straw for many ordinary members who are generally more right-wing than the party MPs. Braverman ally Claire Bullivant, editor of the Conservative Post, warned that keeping Miss Braverman off the ballot could destroy the party. Really? I thought that had been done already by Mr. Blobby.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
I thought he'd comprehensively ruined the party. And then you-know-who followed up.
That is a disgrace.
And then there was...
This government...
I mean, hasn't it been ruined already? Braverman ally Claire Bullivant, editor of Conservative Post, said, unfortunately, this unacceptable behaviour by MPs will have consequences. We're already seeing a flight of thousands of members defecting to reform. The defectors. Not defectives. Well, if Suella is not even allowed on the ballot, that switch to Nigel Farage will only get worse and accelerate. Well, great. Let him go, I say. Fly, my pretties. The lunatics have taken over the Conservative asylum. It seems to be in a sort of death throw, not quite understanding why the stupid public don't appreciate it more, and thinking that the answer to the route that it was taken, having been rejected by the voters, is to go faster and harder down the same route. I mean, these are the numpties that voted for the Lizbot to become their leader and thereby our leader.
Absolutely.
Those people. I say let them have their way. And they can congratulate themselves on their decision-making as they prop up the bar at the golf club while their rancid party circles the plug hole. I mean, their average age means they're all approaching the end of the conveyor belt of life anyway. And those under 65 don't agree with anything they say. How about the young uns get a chance to dictate the direction of travel instead of these ancient, hate-filled, twisted, shuffling grimaces? It's just a thought. No offence. 0345 6060 973. Am I talking to myself here? Look at that switchboard. Good grief. Are the phones working or have they fallen on their face again? Do you want to test them just to make sure? Am I actually on the air? Am I making a noise? Maybe I just totally lost my voice. My lips are flapping, but no noise is coming out. Fortunately, I have about 86,000 texts and tweets and such from last night. And from today. Oh, my God. Well, we know the text machine is working. Look at that. I'll never get through that lot. Sue says, Prime Minister's questions stopped being worth watching when Burkow left. Yeah. In much the same way that... that was the news, that was. The private eye thing. God, what's that called? You know, the game show with that fellow who looks like Jimmy Somerville. And the loquacious one. The lugubrious one. What's that called? The guy who runs Private Eye on that show. Panel show. Anyway, they fired the guy who was the really funny one, and since then I haven't really watched it. Same with Burkow. Yeah, he was the funny one. And they let him go, and I just have not got used to the one there at the moment. He always looks... He always comes across like he's sleeping and is just roused from his slumber every now and again to say, order. Always too late. John says, I'd like to see the introduction of a fast food tax. I don't know how this would work, but believe it could. Well, just introduce it. Just do it. It could work by introducing it. Problem solved. Bill says, Prime Minister's questions is often pointless, but it's the only time each week that the Prime Minister is required to attend Parliament. Without it, accountability would be even less. There's no accountability at Prime Minister's questions. None at all. It's just, it itself is a little game show. Who can insert the most devastating quips in 30 minutes or less? And that's it. It's just a giant waste of time. I mean, it used to be worse. There used to be two a week. I think there were 15 minutes each, weren't they? And the Prime Minister of the day had to bounce up and down at every question because it was preceded by something of the order of, "Oh, what you up to today?" And he would bounce up and say, "I refer the honourable gentleman to the answer I gave some moments before." This is a silly country. Almost everything about our institutions are riotously silly, with buckles on their shoes. Vern says, our maximum temperature, 18 degrees centigrade all summer in the Isle of Man. Hey, Vern.
Stop whining.
Shirley says, all Kamala. You want to say Kamala, because that's how it's spelled. But apparently it's Kamala. Maybe I'll get used to it. I'll work it out in the end. Shirley says, all Kamala needs is for Taylor Swift to back her, and she's won. Yeah, well, I would imagine that Taylor Swift is what J.D. Vance is going to go after next. Childless, screeching cat lady, Taylor Swift, says J.D. Vance. Eleni texts, Kamala will win thanks to her ad campaign. The ads appearing on Instagram are incredible. I mean, talk about hitting the ground running. And it's as though they are in an actual race. And two ancient old geezers were shuffling around the track, Donald Trump being bizarrely the more vigorous of the two, just slightly in the lead. And then Joe Biden fell flat in his face and handed the baton to somebody who was half Donald Trump's age and about a quarter of his weight. And she's in danger of lapping him right now, and Donald Trump has got no idea what's just happened to him. It's a total disgrace. This says, it's not about Trump, it's about the audience that is hungry to consume him. Yes, he has... Oh, God, what a thought.
Disgusting.
I mean, really? Even Melania doesn't want to think of that.
I don't care.
She actually isn't that bothered. They travel in separate limousines to separate mansions in separate states. They barely even met. This anonymous text says, it's not about Trump, it's about the audience that is hungry to consume him. Yes, he has money to manipulate minds, but those minds out there are his willing receptors. Wow, that's, you've totally blown my mind there.
Groovy.
I'm sitting here with my mind blown. Bits of my mind are all over the place. We're going to need a cleaner. 0345 6060 973. Oh, look, 10:30 on LBC, the news headlines with Tim Daly.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Thank you for holding. Your call is important to us.
Yes, your call is important to us, and I'm going to go straight to Sweden and talk to a bloke called Tom. Tom.
Hello, Nick. How are you doing?
I'm great, mate.
Great to talk to you as always. Welcome back to we did miss you when you were away last week.
Very nice. Thank you.
Definitely, yes. Well, I wanted to call in and talk about the presidential election, and it's quite funny, actually, because I was actually on the call waiting to talk to you the night that he got shot, and because of all of that broke out, obviously I never ended up on air, but I called in at that day to say that, because we were talking about how old they were, and, you know, he's like 3,000 years old, most of them, and I said I was going to say it's time for a Generation Xer to finally become president. I don't know if you're a Generation Xer yourself.
How old does that make you?
Well, 65 onwards.
Not quite.
78, 80. No, okay.
Not quite, no.
Well, so I never made it on the call, and then everything else has happened now, and basically, I mean, Kamala is only 2 months shy of being classed as Generation X, so it's funny how quickly things can change.
She's not 65.
No, born 1965.
Oh, right.
Onwards.
Right.
So that's what I meant. That's what I meant. Yeah, if you're born 65 or later.
Yeah.
And she's like born October 64, so she's almost a Generation X.
Yes.
But I mean, what a difference it makes.
I know, what a difference a day makes, eh?
Yeah.
24 little hours.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, no, and I just think it's a real turnaround for the whole, like you said, Trump is I think they were looking pretty for a while, and now they seem to have had their feet swept from under them.
Trump was looking pretty for a while. Is that what you just said?
Well, figuratively.
Yeah, it's like somebody turned the light on. It's like somebody turned. We were in a car and we were heading. We don't really know where in the pitch blackness, and somebody thought, "Hey, let's turn the lights on." And we saw we were heading towards the edge of a cliff and decided to apply the brakes, and that's where we are right now. We've applied the brakes.
Exactly. So I mean, I say with whether it's JD over in the US or Pretty here, just let them do their own thing, and don't interrupt your opponent while they're
making a
huge
mistake. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, Tom. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, don't interrupt your opponent while they're making an idiot of themselves.
Oh, shut up!
I wonder if he's actually going to be, if he's going to man up, to use a discredited phrase. I wonder if Donald Trump is going to, be man enough to actually take part in that debate. Because he couldn't wait to take part in the debate before when it was going to be him and Biden. Because, Biden looked like he was made out of parchment and could barely string two words together. That's just how he has aged before our eyes. I mean, he's a decent person, as far as, presidents go. But he just didn't really stand a chance with the bellowing peach powder puff ex-president. But Kamala could take him apart with chopsticks, could reduce him to his individual molecules and leave him on the floor a bubbling lump. Which is why he's just bravely run away. It's just comical. And now J.D. Vance is, every single thing that he says seems to make the guy look weirder and weirder. There was something about him that was trending on Twitter today, which I hadn't heard about it before, but good grief. I won't mention it on the air, but if you want to... Every single thing that I hear about this guy makes him seem weirder and weirder. And every time I look at his face, he looks weirder and weirder. Tell me I'm wrong. Does he not look like the guy who's taken over from Freddie Mercury out of Queen? Except with a little bit more makeup? What is it with these tough American right-wingers and man makeup? I'm surprised that there's any man makeup left over after Donald Trump gets it applied in his face in the morning. I mean, approximately how much man makeup is Donald Trump wearing? All of it, I think. 0345 6060 973. Manchester. Hello, Raj.
Hi there, Nick. How are you this evening?
Good, thanks.
You well?
Yeah.
Good. So we're just about to let the Conservative Party and the candidates for the next the leader.
Yeah.
I just think they're just scraping the bottom of the barrel here, because everybody who wants to be put their name in the hat, they're all known to be like pretty horrible people, really. I would say liars, people who haven't done their job properly, people who let the country down, in all sorts of different positions. So I can't see how anybody, how you could pick anybody out of these lot, because they're all terrible people. I
think they've got to... they've got to pick somebody new that we don't know. Yeah. I think you've hit the nail on the head. We know who all these people are. I mean, they all have history with us, and it's all terrible.
Bad. Exactly. That's exactly what I said to you, the young lady who answered the phone, because they've got to pick somebody who's probably, which has to be an MP, but I don't know who that would be, but somebody who's not been in the cabinet, not been high, or been in the newspaper or in the press for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
But having said that doesn't leave you with many left, though.
No, it really doesn't. No.
But it's got to be somebody not necessarily young, but somebody who, like you said, the public don't really know too much about.
Yeah, but unfortunately, fortunately, the people that are going to choose the next leader of the Conservative Party are the membership. And the membership, I mean, you've got to hand it to these people. They never shrink from making a bad decision.
See, what I don't understand, Nick, is how can these... So, Conservatives have been in power for 14 years, and they came into power off the back of... when David Cameron came in, off the back of him being very, very centrist, but just slightly right of centrist, but took the centre ground with him, which is exactly what Tony Blair did before that, which is pretty much exactly what Keir Starmer's done this time.
It's
impossible
blindingly
to win the
obvious.
election.
Yeah, it's blindingly obvious.
It's impossible to win the election if you're going further right and right and right.
Yeah.
There's nobody left there in the right any more further right.
There's always the same number. There's always the same number of people that you'll find on the right. It's about 13 to 15%, and it's if you look back in the history of this country, there's always been 13 to 15% of people who want to vote for the BNP or want to vote for UKIP or any of these parties. It's all the same people who vote for them because they're telling people what they want to hear, that the problems that are besetting them are the fault of those people, that easily identifiable minority over there, and there's always a certain number of people who want to believe that. But you ain't going to win no general election by appealing to those people.
You don't think that's reduced over the years, though? Because while people are a bit more educated and a little bit more savvy and a bit more, bit more news out there in terms of what's actually going on than just listening to...
Yes, everything that you've just said is true, but what we've had in recent years is social media, which has then reinforced those feelings.
Yeah.
So we're back to square one in that regard.
That's very true. That's a good point there, Nick. Very good point. I don't know the answer. I don't know who they should pick, because they're just terrible people,
Yeah, I think they should pick I think they should pick the worst one that is available. I double dare them to pick Suella Braverman.
I think Peter Patel. I think Peter Patel's worse.
I don't think at this point. I don't think it really matters. Either or would suit me just fine. All right. Thanks a lot, Raj. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, either of them. Doesn't really matter. And then they can sit there in a room on their own, screaming at each other about how awful it is that the public don't appreciate them more. It just feels great to be rid of them, doesn't it? It feels like we've sort of rid ourselves of a malaise. I mean, I'm up to my eyeballs feeling diseased at the moment, but there was another disease that I didn't know that I had it for 14 years. And we just took the pill of democracy and we've rid ourselves of it. Doesn't it feel great? David sexts. No. Well, he might do, but not to me. David texts. Kamala can do it. So excited about her victory over Trump. Yeah, me too. And for those people who are saying, "Oh, what's he got to do with those? Why don't you talk about British things?" Because there's no doubt people who were, absolutely furious that I'm even mentioning American politics. It matters to us so much. I mean, particularly as we have made this catastrophically awful, verifiably terrible decision to leave the European Union, and the world is being carved up into giant slices. There's America, Canada, and Mexico. There's China, India, Brazil, that lot. Russia along with China, and we are eventually going to be the only major economy just bobbing about on the sea on our lonesome. We've actually made this decision to leave the biggest, most powerful trading bloc at the worst possible time. And we did it by following this guy.
I'm a nutcase.
We did what he said. How's that working out for you?
Fabulous.
Is it everything that you hoped that it would be? Is it everything that he promised that it would be? Thankfully, we've now got sovereignty over our own fish. Hey, Smug.
I don't know anything.
And yeah, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I agree with Jacob Rees-Mogg.
I don't know anything.
LBC. Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbot. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
I just want to tell you all how happy I am to be back in the studio, making a picture again.
It's a radio show, dear. Here's a call in Harrow from a bloke called Jonathan. Hello.
Good evening, Nick.
Yes, Jonathan.
First, how is your health? Because when I was without slippers a few weeks ago, you're not in good shape. Are you better?
I am better, and how's that slipper situation?
I bought one for £10 in the Sainsbury's.
One?
A pair.
A pair, right. That's a wise decision on your part.
Look, I don't want to clash.
What are they made of, by the way?
It's got little sort of latch that you can put sort of above your ankle. I've got a wart on my big toe. Mm-hmm. But you can put it above your ankle or underneath your ankle.
Yeah, that's not slippers. Those are devices so the government can track your whereabouts if you're on remand.
Well, I mean, you do the joking, but the great British Sri Lankan rapper from the Mitcham, MIA. This is not what I call about, but as you're talking about tracking, he did the soundtrack for Slumdog Millionaire.
Right, I have no idea what you're talking about. What are you talking about?
There's a rapper called MIA.
Oh, yes.
He did the soundtrack for Slumdog Millionaire, and he performed on stage with Jay-Z and Kanye West 16 years ago when neither of them were controversial. And he has actually released a range of tinfoil hat clothing. That's true.
Tinfoil hat clothing.
Yeah, it's like jackets and underpants which are made out of metal so that you can't get tracked by the 4G, 5G rays, and it's £200 for a hoodie, and I would buy one, but I'm struggling financially.
MIA clothing line. I'm just looking that up as we speak.
It's called Omni.
Omni.
OHMNI. Yeah, Omni clothing.
Omni clothing. I'll look it up later. But there's underwear made out of foil. Is that what you're saying?
No, the metal sheet.
Right. So that's much better.
Silver Street Shield area, and it's like 200. If I had more money, I would buy one. Like a hoodie and a bag. She labels it as tinfoil hat clothing, but she's very. I mean, LBC would not have her on as a guest, I think, because she rocked the boat.
No. Yeah.
She rocked the boat.
So solid metal underwear. How would you clean those?
No, not solid. I mean, I don't know. I don't have the money to buy it. But I think if I was not balding and obese, I would look quite nice in them.
Well, yeah, if.
Look, Nick, I wanted to say, I don't want to clash with you because you are feeling fragile health-wise.
Yes.
But you peoples now, I know you used to be sort of more Corbyn-ish, but now you centrists like you, and not to name others, James O'Brien, you are also happy now because in this country now you've got the Keir Starmer.
Yes.
And everyone loves him, apparently. And now Kamala, which is the Hindi word for orange, is going to...
Is it?
Yeah, Kamala in Hindi means orange.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, Kamala means orange. So orange is going to take on...
orange.
Oh, shut up!
Yeah.
But you are also happy now. You sound so cheerful. And look, historically, when I first come to this country in the early 90s, you had and I don't personally feel attracted to him, but Bill Clinton, who was the most charismatic, gorgeous man you could think of.
Yes. You're not gay, but...
Yeah, and then you had Obama, who was an angel and a prophet.
Yes.
And then the wokey centrists, the middle-of-the-road beige men and women, not to be offensive, who are now populating the government. I know you can't hide your glee because the evil Tories have gone. But now you've got these people who are just... Everything is going to not radically change, The wars are going to carry on. Is it too depressing to talk about war in the summer?
No, I think war is fun. Let's have more wars.
War is going... The fat... he's not fat anymore, but I bumped into him on the tube when he come out of jail.
Who?
What's the fat gay singer, Boy George.
Right.
True.
You bumped into him. Yeah.
When he come out of jail in 2009, he did that song in the 80s, War is Stupid.
Yeah, War is Stupid, yeah.
Yeah, he was very big in 2009. Looked like tough guy. He had a big tattoo of spider's web on his bald head.
Well, the thing about that I was surprised about Boy George was I haven't met him exactly, but I've been in the same room as him. He's actually very big. I mean, he's very tall. He's much bigger bloke than you would imagine. He looks like he sort of looks like a builder. He's got he's like a lumberjack-sized bloke. You would think he'd be tiny.
No, when I was on the tube in 2009, that's the first thing I thought. He was the tough guy. No wonder he did okay in jail because he looks like a proper tough guy. Not anymore now. He's done weight loss.
Okay.
But look, a few final points if I can. The thing is, look, people like the MIA, people like the Bernie Sanders, people like Tulsi Gabbard, and people like the man you used to talk about in hushed tones before the deep state wokies silenced you, the man who has slandered as being a dirty Bolshevik magical wizard, Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah, loved by the okie dokie.
Okie dokie.
Yes, Jeremy Corbyn.
These were people. Corbyn, Diana. Do you know Tulsi Gabbard?
That rings a bell. Who's that?
He's another person like the Corbyn who is not a centrist. These are the real revolutionaries. You know, These are political figures like Clinton was in the 90s. And I know Trump is now going to lose against Kamala again, which means orange. But can I just end by saying, I really don't want to offend you by saying, I'm curious as to where you met Boy George, but I don't want to offend you by saying this, but you and all of the mainstream media presenters, you all love Keir Starmer so much. If he was the, who's the fat North Korean chap? If he was the dictator, listen. If he was the dictator of North Korea, you in your current incarnation, where you and all of you media types say nothing wrong against him, you would be that, no offense, fat, middle-aged woman in a kaftan or muumuu who sort of bursts into tears each time a Korean dignitary dies. You know, the propaganda channel.
Yeah, the muumuu. Yeah. I would look great in a muumuu. Yeah.
You have become Keir Starmer's propaganda wing, Nick. No offense, but before you cut me off, was it at a party you met the boy, George?
No, it was a theatre. Don't ask me what play it was. I've got no idea.
Tough guy. Mustn't he did fine in prison. He's tough. He looks like he can beat you up.
Yeah.
But that's it. I'm not hopeful about Kamala or about the Keir Starmer, because even today, when I went for I told you I'm obese. When I went for the Chinese takeaway, which I buy just for myself, I almost got run over by about 4 or 5 young kiddies in fully balaclavaed up, doing wheelies on the bike. Probably had knives on them, but things can only get better. Not really.
Right. Well, look left, right, and then left again before crossing the road. Make sure you do that at all times, Jonathan. Safety first.
I wish we had right to carry arms.
We'd always be able to find you just by following the trail of dead people.
Buy the clothing, please. It's good.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Good talking to you, Jonathan. Thanks a lot, mate. Thank you for, whatever that was. 0345 6060 973. Brett says, I bet you're looking forward to the newest Olympic event this year, breakdancing. Such athletes, says Brett. That text dripping with sarcasm, no doubt. Well, you know what? It is an athletic pursuit, breakdance, so you've got to be super fit to be able to do it. All of that, don't ask me what those moves are called. I've got no idea. But, they do the wiki woo. And they're upside down and they're twisting around and, abs of steel, no doubt. But it doesn't seem like it would be an Olympic sport to me. But then I didn't last time think that skateboarding fitted the Olympic ideal. I thought, what on earth is skateboarding doing in the Olympic Games, for crying out loud? And I watched it, and it was the best thing I saw in the Olympic Games. It just looked like they were having so much fun. I mean, when at the Olympic Games does anybody look like they're having fun? They look like they're stressed, ready to snap in half. I mean, you got that Tom Diver who occupies his time by knitting jumpers. He's so stressed. Apparently army people used to do that. Or, sailors at sea used to knit their own jumpers, which gave them 2 benefits. 1, relieved stress and boredom, and 2, gave them a jumper. How can you beat that? But no, these kids that were doing the skateboarding thing, it just looked like they were hanging out, on a sunny Saturday. And they all knew each other, and they were all, high-fiving and all of the rest of it. And it was just so good. And the actual sport itself was way better than I expected it to be. Because all I know about skateboarders is you walk past the South Bank, and they've got this desultory, gloomy, cavernous area where they skateboard under concrete. It's all dark and it's awful, and they're just terrible at it. And it's usually filled with people who are at least 10 years too old for what it is that they're doing. And it sounds terrible apart from anything else, and it's echoey in there, and so it magnifies the dreadful sound that they make. Rumble, 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 clack. Horrible. And, even the ones that appear to be quite good are still terrible. There doesn't seem to be anything to that sport. Until I saw the actual experts doing it at the Olympic Games, and I thought, wow, this really is something. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. So maybe breakdancing will be one of those things you think, well, what rubbish. Why are these people, how are these people even got an all-access pass? Never mind our being shown on the television. But maybe it'll be great. I haven't seen any of it yet, but I can't wait. Next week I'm going to, if only the weather wasn't going to be great next week, I think I'd be sitting in front of my TV constantly, all day long, just hoovering up that Olympic stuff. Because apart from team sports, I will watch absolutely anything that has the Olympic rings appended to it. I mean, I don't think that tennis certainly shouldn't be in the Olympics. Who on earth came up with that stupid idea? I mean, like we don't have enough tennis? Just finished Wimbledon, for crying out loud, and how interesting was that? Boring! Couldn't be more dull. I challenge anybody in this audience to tell me who won the women's championship. I challenge you to tell me who won the men's championship. Bet you can't. Betcha. No idea. Not remotely interested. Rugby should not be an Olympic sport. Football, I mean, come off it. What's football doing as an Olympic sport? That's just plain silly. No, I don't think it's that team sports should have any business being in the Olympic Games, apart from the running thing where they pass the stick to each other, whatever that's called. You know, the running thing where they pass the stick to each other. I suppose you could call that a team sport. Other than that, no. Water polo, that's right out. Basketball, couldn't be more dull. All of the other stuff, though, the fighting skills, because that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's about gladiatorial skills. How you can skewer an opponent with a javelin, that sort of thing. They ain't just throwing those things for fun, you know. It's warcraft. Ditto running, and I suppose you could say the same for gymnastics. And you know, it's like this is the best that a human can act like a monkey. Gymnastics. This is as monkey-like as we get. Anyway, can't wait. Next week I'll be hoovering up in vast quantities. Unfortunately, Zach has texted the following. Hate to burst your bubble, Nick, but according to the Army, we have just 3 years left before war breaks out. Before war breaks out. Just 3 years left before you'll be getting this message through a tannoy near a street up your end.
Emergency, everybody to get from street. Emergency, everybody to get from street.
In a street up your end. That almost worked. I'm very, very ill. Have I mentioned that?
Stop whining.
0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @lbc. Hey, before I go, don't let me leave without doing the food story about Parliament, the Houses of Parliament, and the food that they get. I had a big story that when I lost my voice, I was going to do it, but couldn't do it then, so I'll do it now. Don't let me leave tonight without doing it.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Anybody care what this guy thinks?
No!
What the hell is going on?
0345 6060 973. Annie says it's just becoming a huge circus. The American government and our government, they're all trying to become celebrities instead of politicians. Well, I did feel that was the case during the last administration in this country.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
I mean, it started with him, of course, and then got worse thereafter.
Absolutely.
And they're all desperately trying to become celebrities now, of course, which is why they've all gone over to America to try to shovel as many dollars as they can in their pocket before they're dragged back home again. We see you. But America has always been about show business, kind of. I mean, Donald Trump is the epitome of it. There's nothing there other than this act that he has been playing since he did that stupid game show on television where he pretended to be a successful businessman. 0345 6060 973. Heston. Hello, Isaac.
Hello, Nick.
Isaac.
Right. 5 topics. Let's go. Right. Number 1. Yeah. Down to business.
Wait a minute. I'll loosen my shoes. Go ahead.
Number 1. Right. When's James O'Brien returning? Because I don't want to tune into Suella again. Right.
Right. I think is it Monday? I'll ask my glamorous assistant. She should know. Hopefully she's on the phone at the moment. Can't take a call.
Okay. Right. Number 2. Right. We are number 2. The Paris Olympics. We are currently number 11. We are 11th with 2 medals. A bronze and a silver. We won the bronze in women's synchronized diving for the first time in 64 years, which is the same age as me, by the way.
Oh, yes. Same age as you, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. 1960, yeah, that's when I was born, and that's when they last won a medal in that women's synchronized event. Anyway,
I'd have to say that 1960 was an excellent year to be born. The only year that would probably be better than that would be 1950, and then you would have been a teenager when the Beatles came to prominence, and wouldn't it? How exciting would that have been? It was almost like the world turned into colour from black and white. But 1960, you see, we got the lot. We were teenagers in the 1970s. We had the glam rock with the Sweet and the Rubettes and all that exciting stuff. And then David Bowie and Mark Bolan came along, and then so we had and then we had classic rock, of course, and disco and hip hop, and then we had the dance.
You said it.
The dance revolution, and we lived through it a lot at the perfect age, Isaac.
Absolutely, yeah. I was a disco funky boy, stroke house music, blah blah blah. Anyway,
yeah, going mental.
Anyway, so we France won gold in the rugby sevens.
Well, now wait a minute, you haven't told us what we won the other medal in.
Oh God, I've forgotten.
I bet. Let me guess. Something to do with cycling.
Oh, probably, yeah. Oh, probably. Oh, yes, that's right. Probably,
was it?
Yeah. Probably,
yeah. There you go. Completely correct in every respect. Cycling. You know, our Olympic committee, they cynically chose cycling to concentrate all the money on because that's where most of the medals are. I mean, that's where that's the event that hands out the most medals, I think, cycling.
Yes, I can believe that.
Which is why we are preeminent in that sport, is because we concentrated on it in order to increase our medals haul.
That's right. And to finish off quickly on the Olympic topic, Spain beat Argentina in the men's doubles with Rafael Nadal. Was it Rafael Nadal and Alcatraz? So there you go. And the Alca guy, the guy who won Wimbledon. Yeah.
No idea. Tennis should not be an Olympic sport. That's just plain silly.
Okay. Topic 3. Moving on quickly. Getting back to UK politics. I just want to say, and I'll repeat it again because I know it upsets a lot of listeners, you know.
Yeah, all of the right people. Go on.
All the right people, that's right. The adults are back in the room. We have got grown-up politics. It's
amazing. I'd forgotten what it sounded like.
Absolutely. It's like a church-like experience at the moment. Our politics is so calming,
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's so calming. You don't feel like you're being gaslighted. You don't feel like you're being lied to. You don't feel like people are talking at you through the camera, and they know that every single thing they're telling you is not true. It's as though we're being. It's like a light has been shined on us, having been
absolutely.
sitting in a dark cell for the last 14 years.
Absolutely. Right, topic 4. Okay, the show you were thinking about...
Hang on a minute. Have we done 3 already? There was the Olympics.
I think...
And then there was the British politics. What was the third one?
Yeah, third, it was James O'Brien and...
that was a topic. Right, I thought that was an aside.
That was a topic.
Okay.
That was a topic. Okay. Fourth one is the... I forgot now. Fourth one. Oh, yeah, the game show. Yeah, it's Have I Got News for You with Ian Heslop and Paul Merton.
Yes.
Is that what you're thinking about?
Yeah, that is absolutely what I'm thinking about. Yeah, I haven't watched that programme since they fired the funny guy that used to do it all the time. What was his name?
Angus Deaton.
Angus Deaton is the correct answer. He was the funniest thing on that programme, and they fired him because he became a news story, which seemed
that's right.
Seemed like a silly decision to me, but, you know, what do I know about TV?
And finally, number 5, to wrap it all up,
Yes.
you know, wrap up all my summarisation.
Put a bow on it for us.
Tracy.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I was taught in English school in the mid-70s.
Well, I bet they said this. Yeah. Tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you've told them.
Boom, exactly. Yeah. And finally, your regular speaker last night, a lady called Jan. Okay, she was trying to remember something last night, and I think it was an economic movement. I think it's called BRICS. Okay.
Oh yeah.
BRICS, which is short, which stands for Brazil,
Russia,
India, China, South Africa,
right.
which is an economic and financial movement to challenge a US dollar. That's what I think she was thinking about.
Well, it ain't going to challenge the US dollar, but they may trade in amongst each other. But, you know, what kind of a country would want to be inside of a big trading group? I mean, that's a crazy idea, isn't it?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, all right, thanks a lot, Isaac. Excellent work, that man. 5 points correctly delivered. Ahmed says, is it true Meghan Markle's... Ahmed texts, is it true Meghan Markle... One more time, and if I screw it up this time, I'm going to take that text and I'm going to throw it out the window. So pay attention. Ahmed texts, is it true it's Meghan Markle's fault that Brexit failed and that Joe Biden is so old and also that England lost to Spain in the final? How does our Harry live with this woman? I did a brief read of some of the headlines on the Mail Online about the Wicked Witch of the West. Let's see now. Harriet Sperling's Summer of Love is ticking all the right fashion boxes. Look at her, isn't she an absolute dream? I have no idea who she is. I'm looking for Meghan Markle stories. One moment, please. Oh, I have to go... Wait a minute now. This is unusual. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stories down before I get a Meghan Markle story.
What?
I can't believe it. What's she done now? Oh, she's trying to rewrite history. Yeah, well, but I think that the Mail has blown its rewriting history argument out of the water by saying that people are rewriting history when they're just writing history. Or even reading it out is rewriting history if it's a part of our history that they don't want a spotlight shone on. What else has she done? Harry's just made his most outrageous and sanctimonious claim to date. It was probably Meghan Markle's fault. Insincere Meghan sent out warning signals from the start. Taxpayer to foot policing bill for the Duke of Westminster's wedding attended by Prince William. Taxpayers?
What?
This guy. How did he inherit £10 billion without paying inheritance tax? Whereas you or I would have to pay 40% if it's anything above 300 grand. How did he become the richest young person in the country, if not the world? Because his dad died and gave him £10 billion. And we're paying the policing for his wedding? You've got to be kidding me. The lavish wedding of one of the Britain's richest men, the Duke of Westminster, has been slammed after it emerged that taxpayers will have to pay the cost of policing it. Well, isn't that this country in a nutshell? And this phone line is about to explode with people yelling at me that what I've just said is the politics of envy. I can't be. I can't bear to look anymore. It's just going to be too difficult. I'm in enough pain as it is.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
Ahmed says, no, I've read that one already, like about 3 times. This anonymous text says, heatwave criteria, I'll take it. What does that mean? Shahaf says, what buyer's remorse? Vance is precisely on brand. His only role is to look crazier than Donny. No, that's not right at all. I think when it was Joe Biden that Donald Trump was up against, I think that J.D. Vance was to try to extinguish in the minds of pretend Christians that Donald Trump wasn't one of them. So we'll get somebody that's even more right-wing than Donald Trump, because Donald Trump just says anything that he thinks the crowd in front of him will give him applause for. Whereas J.D. Vance probably has convinced himself to believe all of this Looney Tunes, right-wing, pretend Christian stuff that he comes out with. So that was the idea for J.D. Vance to be on the ticket. Plus, J.D. Vance is in the pocket of certain billionaires who are funding Trump's swing at the White House. But now it's not Biden anymore. Now it's a woman. It just looks like Trump and Vance are two old, white, middle-aged, rich men who are taking pot shots at a woman. That's not a good look. At all. And to say that they've got the rug pulled out from underneath their feet would be an understatement. Their heads are spinning. They don't know what to do. And Donald Trump has he's gone back to doing the thing that he does. He's just making up names for people, like he's 12. Former President Donald Trump tested out new attacks on Vice President Kamala Harris in front of a conservative audience on Friday evening, likening her to the Biden administration policies on immigration and crime, deliberately mispronounced her name. Because that's his big thing now. Because that's what big boys do when they're doing big boy things, like running away from debating a woman. They mispronounce her name. Just for a laugh from the dinglings in his audience. Trump's address on friendly turf at the conservative Turning Point Action Believers Summit. These people that think that the bullet that was intended for Donald Trump was actually steered away by the hand of God. They actually believe that. The Turning Point Action Believers Summit. It was a rerun of his frequent hits. He just does the same speech over and over again. The late, great Hannibal Lecter, tremendous guy. Like to have people for dinner. Ha ha ha. It's the thing with the shark and the battery. I mean, what is he talking about? Trump's address on friendly turf at the conservative Turning Point Action Believers Summit was in many ways a run of his frequent hits, says Politico. The 2020 election was rigged. The end of Roe v. Wade, the banning abortion, was something that everybody wanted. Deluded much. And the US was becoming a dumping ground for criminals from other countries. He's been saying that, all that stuff, ever since he descended the gold escalators. The US has become a dumping ground for criminals from other countries. Well, his current wife is from another country, which is proof that immigrants go to America that do the jobs Americans don't want to do.
Don't be rude.
In the past few days, a rush of new polls have shown a much closer race between Trump and Harris than Trump and Biden. And Republicans have struggled to settle on lines of attack against her. And his campaign signaled on Thursday that he might back out of a previously planned September the 10th presidential debate, which would now feature Harris instead of Biden, bravely running away. In his address in West Palm Beach on Friday, Trump took credit for Biden stepping down from his ticket, which came weeks after the president's disastrous debate performance. But Trump turned his focus more on Harris, calling her a bum. Because that's what big brave boys do. He called her a bum.
I can be more presidential than anybody.
Like he's 12. And he accused Harris, whose husband is Jewish, of not liking Jewish people. Not particularly smart. And he questioned how Jews or Catholics in the US can vote for Democrats, which I'm sure both Jews and Catholics didn't find offensive at all, suggesting that all Jews and Catholics should vote as a bloc for the Republican Party, regardless of which irreligious chump is running it. He said, with 4 more years of Harris, who was worse than Joe Biden in a true sense, and far more liberal, America will be decimated by migrant crime, demolished by fascism, ravaged by rampant inflation, and impoverished by the complete obliteration of American energy, he said. Or in other words...
Bing bong!
He's just making noises now. It's like somebody has yanked the dummy out of his mouth. And the response from the Kamala Harris team was perfect. In a statement, Harris' campaign spokesman said Trump generally sounded like someone you wouldn't want to sit near in a restaurant, let alone be the President of the United States of America. Bullseye. And then it got super weird. And I'll talk about that in a minute. 0345 6060 973 LBC.
This is LBC. Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Hot H-O-T-A-I-R.
Let's have a call in East Yorkshire. Hello, Mike.
I wish you wouldn't play that the instant just before I get on. And then, you were talking about our excellence at cycling and what have you. But you failed to point out we're excellent at any sport you do sat down, like horse riding or rowing. If you can do it sat down, we're great at it.
That's a good point. Rowing was the other one that we concentrated on because there are a lot of medals in rowing. That is the specific... I'm not making that up. I saw a documentary about this during the London Olympics, and they actually admitted that. The British Olympic Team GB said that that's why they spent such a lot of public money on rowing and cycling. It's because there's so many medals.
Yeah. And horse riding, of course.
Yeah.
The elite can take part in that, can't they?
Well, that's right. Which is pretty, I don't know, it's pretty cynical, really, because that does mean that all of the people that were superb in their sports that might not have a lot of medals going for them, it might just be one medal, for instance, they didn't get any money. So they didn't get to go to the Olympics and they didn't get to train, and their dreams were extinguished just because of this cynical... move to spend money only on getting medals. You know, the actual slogan of the Olympic Games is, it's not the winning, it's the taking part. But we chucked that right out the window and turned it completely around. It's the winning, it's not the taking part.
Yeah, you're dead right on that one. And I say pretty photographer and a hat in the ring.
Oh, yeah.
Claiming she's going to be a strong leader. Well, we knew that because she's been convicted of bullying.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she said that she's best placed to unite the disparate factions of the Conservative Party. Yeah, that's right.
Good luck with that one.
Yeah.
But, this thing about Trump and the Christian thing, I mean, you said you've got more files on that.
Yeah.
I hope you've got the bit about where he's encouraging them to vote in November.
Yes.
So that they don't have to vote again.
Amazing. He keeps telling us who he is and what he's going to do. And people think, oh, he's not going to do that. And then he goes ahead and does it. That's who he is. He doesn't have any filter. He tells you what he's going to do, and then he does it. I am going to be a dictator, he said, but, and then in parentheses, only on day one. Yeah, because that's what dictators do. They give up power after one day.
Yeah, I mean, but on a serious note, him and Vance are just self-deluded liars trying to get votes. I don't like them in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But the ones that frighten me most are Steve Bannon and Mike Flynn.
because they haven't changed the tune for 10 years. They've kept saying they're going to do. And they are the serious players behind it, and they're the ones that scare the living daylights out.
Yeah, they're playing the long game. I mean, there's this... what we see is on the surface, Donald Trump and his act, but the people behind him, the ones with the money and the plan, they seem to be the fount of all evil, and they're playing the long game. They're doing what's called countrypreneurship. They essentially are James Bond villains without any of the charisma. They just want to take over the world because they are billionaires, but that's apparently not enough for them. It must be so weird to think like that. I cannot imagine it. If I was a billionaire, I would not spend my entire day and the whole of my life in this endless pursuit for more money and power. What kind of a person does that?
Yeah, Steve Bannon keeps saying his life's ambition is to destroy the Chinese Communist Party. Well, that sounds flippant on the surface of it. But if he's in power and he literally tries to do that, what are the world consequences? I mean, he's really worrying, and he's never changed his tune.
Yeah, I don't believe that their interests really lie outside of America or this country, really.
No,
because it's the same people that are funding things that happen in this country that are funding in America. It's the same people, and there's a conduit, and we all know their names, and they've had great success. I mean, they got us out of the European Union. For a start, they got Trump a one term. If Biden was still on the ticket, they'd probably manage to get him 2 terms, or 3, or 4, or forever. Who knows?
Who knows, yeah. But on a bit lighter note on that, Vance has said that he's against all abortion and that reproduction should be left down to God's will.
Yeah.
Well, do you remember Bette Midler's remark on that? She said, if you want reproduction to be down to God's will, I presume then you'll agree with the banning of Viagra.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And what are his thoughts on that? Yeah.
Okay, cheers.
All right, good work. Thanks a lot, Mike. Keep your ears peeled. Yeah, she said that exactly so. And, try to take Viagra out of the hands of those aged Republicans, and you'll be met with a stern response. Because, God intervened to make those blue pills, so they don't count. Actually, anything to do with a man doesn't count. They only want to control women's bodies. And I don't believe that it's about abortion. I think it's about sex. They want to determine when a woman has sex. That's who they are. It's not got anything to do with abortion. Because if they really actually cared about children, then they would try to take guns out of the hands of maniacs. But they won't do that. Every time there's a school shooting in America, the Republicans do not insist that we have a sensible gun control policy in America. They put a badge of an AR-15 assault weapon on their lapels to show where their loyalty lies with the gun manufacturers. It's too early to talk about gun control. Thoughts and prayers every single time. So they don't care about children. And they do anything they can, anything in their power to take medical care away from those people that can't afford to pay in cash or have insurance. And it costs something like $40,000 to have a baby in an American hospital. And if you haven't got insurance, how are you going to do that? They don't care about children. They just care about controlling when women have sex. That's what that's all about. I can't believe that people aren't saying this out loud. Just me. 0345 6060 973. Martin texts, lots of angry snowflakes are clearly upset that Vance decided to tell the truth. Well, I don't know which truth you're talking about, Martin. If you're talking about the truth where he said America was run by a bunch of childless cat ladies, if that's the truth you're talking about, Martin, then I wish you all the best. I wish you all the best in that fruitless search for a girlfriend. Good luck. Lock your bedroom door, and if you ever get hungry, then we'll slide a pizza underneath. He'll be on the internet from now until the end of time. Googling chat-up lines. 0345 6060 973. I mean, seriously, if anybody uses the word snowflake or woke as an insult in your presence, just smile sweetly and back slowly away. No sudden moves. You don't want to upset them. Just back out of the room and close the door quietly. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC. 11:30, the news headlines with Tim Daly.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
And I like him. He's a good man. He is not a racist. I can tell you that. He's a good person.
Thanks, Donny. You're the best. You're the best, worst person in the world. If that's any help. Mark says it's not always easy to know what planet Trump is on. His delusions of grandeur are getting more extreme, and he's definitely getting more wound up than before. He seems to have no policy. Yeah, he's got no strategy either.
There's no strategy. I have no strategy. There's zero strategy.
He has zero strategy. Since Biden left the race, Donald Trump looks about 10 years older, doesn't he? I mean, he did look more vital and vigorous than Joe Biden, but then that's not very difficult. Anybody that's alive looked more vibrant and vigorous than Joe Biden. But since Joe Biden's out the race, and now he's got Kamala Harris, Donald Trump seems to have aged about 10 years. He looks like a partly deflated balloon.
Oh, shut up!
Just saying. 0345 6060 973. Let's see now. Southampton. Hello, Peter.
Hello.
Peter.
How are you?
Good, thanks.
I'm glad you're feeling better now.
Thanks.
What I want to talk to you about, Nick, I'll drag you back to the Olympic ceremony last night.
Oh, yeah. I only saw it up to Lady Gaga.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe you could make more head or tail than I could. I've never seen such a, well, I don't know how to describe it, really. It was just bitty.
Bitty,
it was
yeah.
Stupid. There was no connection with anything. I mean, they went down sewers with the flame. They, I don't know if you saw that. Did you see that?
No, I didn't. Is that wise? Because the kind of gases that you find down sewers might have caused an explosion.
That's what I thought as well. And then we had a flash aside to Monsieur Macron and his wife, who looks a really strange-looking lady to me.
Oh,
like
is she?
Like something out of a Mad comic, I'd say. That's what she looked like to me.
Well, drawn by who? Don... what was the guy? My favourite cartoonist in Mad was the guy who drew the people there as they were walking. Their shoes would flip over at 90 degrees at their toes.
That's right. Yeah, I remember him.
Don. Oh, that's going to annoy me now.
Well, too late at night for me to remember that. I suppose it is. Yeah. Anyway, another thing I noticed that when the Olympic flag was presented to the French. They managed to put it on a flagpole upside down.
Were they in distress? Was it a sign?
I don't know. It just sort of completed everything really for me. And then I turned it off. I couldn't stand it anymore.
Yeah.
And I went in tonight to watch it because I wanted to watch the swimming and what have you.
Yeah.
And the BBC have a lady called Claire Balding. I don't know if you know or know of her. I'd never heard of her
Claire
before.
Balding. She's the one that knows everything. I think she's actually very, very good.
I'm sure she is.
She does seem to know everything. She's impossible to stump on any subject that's got associations with sport. I'm just going to Google her to make sure I'm talking about the same woman.
No,
Claire
I think you're probably right.
Balding. Yeah, her. Yeah, she's very good. Yeah,
Well,
it's that Scottish lady that I can't stand. I mean, they wheel that I can't remember what she's called, but they wheel her out for events like this. I mean, every 4 years. I don't know whether they keep her in a cupboard in the intervening period. Maybe I just don't watch the programs that she's on. But she seems to be determined to ruin absolutely everything. She cannot let a surprise unfold before your eyes without telling you what's about to happen, thereby ruining the surprise. She's infuriating.
Exactly. Well, if I go back to Mrs. Balding or Ms. Balding, whoever she is, I think she's on marching powder. And the reason why I think that is she was sat next to Rebecca Adlington on a small desk, and she's shouting and screaming at her. And her eyes are bulging, and she's got a clipboard, and she keeps slamming it on the desk all the time. And I think this poor woman Adlington must have wondered what the hell she was doing there.
Right, well, I've got no idea. I can't comment on that because I didn't see any of what you've just described. But I do know that that opening ceremony does seem to have annoyed all of the right people. The harumphing old geezers at the Mail Online and all those right-wing newspapers were absolutely aghast. The spitting their gentleman's patum papirium, whatever you call that spread. What's that spread called? I think that's exactly what it's called.
Yeah, the Beano, yeah.
Yeah, they were spitting that stuff across the room. Yeah, they lost they threw their porridge at the wall. They were so furious.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I've never seen anything so bad in all my life.
Right.
It was absolutely awful.
Right, just because they hated it, I even though I haven't seen it, I'm going to love it.
No. I would recommend that you don't bother to look at it, mate. Don't bother to look at it.
I'm going to, Peter. There's nothing you can do to stop me.
No, there isn't. Good luck to you.
All right, thanks a lot, mate. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. There's almost nothing that is not a team sport that has the Olympic rings appended to it that I won't watch. And I feel annoyed now that I didn't buy one of those newspapers that gave you a special colour pull-out section inside which told you what was going to happen on every day. I suppose I just have to look it up on a daily basis.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
But you know me, I never complain. Nick says, I hope in a few months when Labour are failing with the economy, with the boats, etc., that you will hold them to account the same as you have with the Conservatives. A few months. A few months. Really? Is that your timeline for them to unwind the catastrophe that has been visited on us for 14 straight years? They get a few months. Are you kidding me? 0345 6060 973. Let's have Camden. Hello, Paul.
Hi there.
Paul.
Yeah, nice to talk to you. You know, sometimes I think that we learn more when we try to see the people who disagree with, see their opinion on certain matters. For example, I think Marx was right about what he said about capitalism. I just don't believe that communism is the answer. I'm a big fan of Vance Braverman. I'm not a socialist. I'm not a communist. I loved his National Health Service. I loved his support of the Zionism at the time. But I'm not a left-winger. Okay, so, you know, I agree with lots of things with people that I, in general, don't agree with. And do you think it's possible to see that the real damage done to this country wasn't Brexit, but the Remainers, which was a noble position, but when they lost, they became Remourners, which was not a noble position, and then they became Remoaners, and then Remourners, and now they might be rejoiners. And that I couldn't believe it as an immigrant to this country. I came from South Africa, where I was at a very British school, and I really embraced British values, and I had them beaten into me as well, bad stuff as well. But I do support British values. And the one thing I was taught is you lose well. You lose a tennis match, you lose well, you shake your opponent's hand. And that just didn't happen here. It led to a divided society. So can you see that the people like King John Burko and people like that blocked democracy, they are the ones that did the damage. We don't even do so badly.
Paul, how much power do you Brexiters actually want before you stop complaining that you don't have any power? You have Boris Johnson, the man who ran on getting Brexit done, was the most powerful man in the country for the first part of our Brexit journey and did absolutely nothing with it. And he was followed by Mrs. Let's Leave herself, Liz Bloomin' Truss, and she was followed by Rishi Sunak, who has always been all for Brexit. That's three prime ministers in a row, three people who had more power. Boris Johnson had a stonking majority. Liz Truss, although right enough, she was too crazy to actually last for very long, but she managed to do a boatload of damage in that short brief period of time. And then there was Mr. Moneybags, Rishi Sunak, who could have done anything he wanted with the kind of majority that he had in the House of Commons, and all of those people were what? They were stymied by the deep state? Are you kidding me?
No, I don't mean that. I mean from 2016 to 2019. I think I'm talking about the Theresa May era, where John Bercow and the blockage, and the Ramonas and the blockage of democracy.
Right. Okay. Well, I refer you to Paul. I
years.
refer you to the answer I gave some moments ago. It's just pathetic. This whining and whining and whining. It really is. I mean, at what point will you be satisfied? We left. None of the things that were promised actually came to pass. We left, and none of the things that were promised came to pass.
Yeah,
it was all a
much.
tower of... it's somebody else's fault. Yeah, it always is. It was a tower of lies, all of it. We were conned as people by dark money coming from elsewhere, and you could point the finger at Russia, as security services certainly did, and other dark forces joined in gleefully as well. And we left. And it didn't work. Everything that the Ramonas were warning you about actually came to pass. It couldn't possibly have worked for the simple reason that no country on earth has ever left a trading party a trading bloc that it was party to. No country has ever made it more difficult to trade with its biggest trading partner. The world's biggest trading bloc that's so near you can see it on a clear day. But no. Rather than accept responsibility and say, OK, we were wrong, we lied to you, you've been duped. No, it's just finding excuse. John Bercow is the man that's at fault for the failure of Brexit. Right. OK, sure. I can't have that conversation again. It seemed like I had it for about 7 years straight. And everything that people like me were warning about has come to pass. And all of the people that were just yelling snowflake at us, they have all suffered the consequences. The places that were most vociferously for Brexit are the ones that have suffered most from us leaving the European Union. Just ask those good people in Cornwall how their funding for infrastructure projects is going. Have a chat with the fishermen, see how they're doing. 0345 6060 973 LBC.
LBC. This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
Would you mind telling me what this is all about?
0345 6060 973. Rebecca says, did you hear Trump's plea for Christians to vote for him? He said they'd only have to do it once and wouldn't have to vote again. While his running mate's going after women and cats, he's going after America. Yeah, well, this is that story. Amazing. He was talking on stage at one of these conservative dingling rallies, the Turning Point Action Believers Summit. You know, these people that think that that Donald Trump has been delivered by God to save America. Those people, you know. It got super weird towards the end. Trump said, Christians, get out and vote. Just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It will be fixed. It will be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians, said Donald Trump. He said, I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. Right. He said, I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good, you're not going to have to vote, he said. And you recall last December he said he would be a dictator, but only on day one. How many people in history have made themselves a dictator for 1 day and then reverted to democracy? And in May this year, he addressed the gun nut lobby, the National Rifle Association, and he talked about serving more than 2 terms as president. and his enablers said he was joking. You know, because that's what he does. He jokes. He's never said anything consciously funny in his life. He tells you who he is. People should start believing him. You're not going to have to vote if you go out and vote this time. We'll have it fixed. His actual words on stage, on camera. 0345 6060 973. Newcastle, Bernard.
Good evening, Nick. I actually saw that video and Trump admitted he was not a Christian, that he wants the Christians to vote for him.
Well, it was difficult to tell what he said. I thought he said, I'm a Christian, but it did sound...
he's not a Christian.
Well, I'm not sure that that's true. I very much doubt that he would address an audience of Christians and say, I'm not a Christian, because he wants their votes. So I think that it maybe sounded a bit like he stumbled over the word, but I think that he actually did say, I'm a Christian.
Well, we'll agree to differ on that. I've seen so many videos recently of Trump, and he's turning into the spiteful old man I think everybody knew he was, because having attacked Biden so viciously, he's now doing the same to Kamala Harris.
He's trying.
And the thing is,
yeah, but it's not landing. It's not working.
On deaf ears. It'll fall on deaf ears. One of the odd quirks that came out, J.D. Vance said something. I think he was criticising Kamala for not having had children.
Yeah.
You've got all the American presidents up to now, and Biden is number 46. None of the male presidents have ever had a child. Their wives might have had a child, but none of the male presidents have had a child.
Right.
So straight away, J.D. Vance got on the wrong foot with that.
Yeah.
And apparently he's a disaster waiting to happen.
Oh, it's happened already. I imagine that Donald Trump's people are ruining the day that he picked him, or rather he had J.D. Vance picked for him, did Donald Trump, by the people with the money who are behind him. But yeah, I think that that Kamala Harris actually does have children. She's the...
that was my impression, because there were two people who looked like children when she was speaking the other day.
They're her husband's children from a previous marriage. So, unless that doesn't count, unless bringing up children as a foster parent or as a mother-in-law doesn't count, then yes, she does have children.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that with the one big bombshell that could yet happen between now and November the 5th is some facts emerge regarding Epstein that have presently been covered up, and Trump will do his best to make sure they never see the light of day.
Well, he was asked about that, didn't he? I think it might have been on Fox News, and they asked him, "Are you going to release the files on UFO sightings?" And he said, "Yes, I'll absolutely do that." They said, "Are you going to release the files on the shooting of JFK?" And he said, "Yeah, I'll absolutely do that." And they said, "Are you going to release the files on Epstein?" And he said, "Well, we might not do that because it might have names of people in there, and that'd be very unfair." And it's back to swiftly away from that, which was kind of a strange thing to say, really, I thought.
One last point is first advisor that he had in the White House, Steve Bannon, is in his 4th week in prison, and he doesn't get out until the start of November. So the next 4 months, Bannon is silenced as he's serving his sentence for disobeying a subpoena.
Right.
So he'll only be able to come out, I think, on November the 1st and have 4 days to try and make an impact, which I think by then, I think the election will be well and truly decided.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much decided right now. I think Donald Trump was going to win when it was against Biden, but now he's going to lose because he doesn't know what to do about a young, vibrant, vigorous, an intelligent woman. He is completely at sea now. The man's drowning.
Since Roe v. Wade was overturned, every single state that has had an abortion vote has gone in favour of the Democrats. And what's even more golden for Trump, and he hasn't quite grasped this, is there's a lot of Republican voters who are women are finding out just how extreme their own states are relative to abortion.
Right. And again, I don't think that it is about the right to life. I don't think that's what it is at all. I think it's controlling women's sex lives. I think it's a disapproval on the part of men that women can choose to have sex as they wish, rather than as part of a marriage for the purpose of procreation. You know, they're not supposed to enjoy it. I think it comes down to that.
Well, in terms of what's gone on with Roe v. Wade and all these votes, I think the actual migration of women from what the red states, which would be the Republican states, has massively increased to where they can get legal abortions since that verdict was overturned.
But they're leaving those.
Trying to ban IVF for women.
Right. That's right as well. Yes. So they're leaving.
Ban the morning after pill.
Yes.
But they're not doing anything for men relatives, as you said had before, with Viagra.
Yeah. No.
That's not in the equation.
No, because God invented Viagra. That's part of His plan. Yeah.
And depending on who you listen to at the moment, that shooter may have had an AR-15 with him, but it would appear he didn't use it to fire the bullets that killed the fireman and injure other people, because if an AR-15 with a high-velocity rifle just clips Trump's ear, it does serious damage, and there's not very much damage to his ear since he had his bandage removed.
No,
so
none at all. There's no scar, there's no cut. They didn't need any stitches. It's
And they've kept very quiet in terms of what medical treatment he had relative to the injury.
Yeah, they just put a plaster on the size of a pillow and sent him out the door. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Good talking to you, Berta. Thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, I do. Before it looked like he was riding a wave, and he was going to be a winner. Now he's just a whiner.
I'm a whiner, and I keep whining and whining.
He seems to be deflated, Donald Trump. He's looking at being a two-time loser, and it's just delicious. And he's picked the man who's going to drag him down. He needs somebody to throw him a rubber ring, but somebody's thrown him an anvil with this J.D. Vance guy. Just totally. He might have been okay against Joe Biden because he would have cemented in the support of the pretend religious types who want to make out that Jesus saved Donald Trump so that he can save us. Those people. But it just absolutely doesn't work with a strong and intelligent woman as his opponent. And I wonder if he is actually going to bravely run away from debating her. What a pathetic man he is. Acting the hero, he survived an assassin's bullet, but running away from talking to a woman. These are delicious times, and I did feel that we were on the road to hell, but we might it might actually have been turned around. Who knows? We'll find out when we get there. Bill says, I'm no fan of Trump, but Ms. Harris has no chance of beating the Orange Joker, says Bill, who has inside information. Has no chance. She's ahead of him in the polls now, Bill. Andrea says, Andrea Leadsom tried to say that Theresa May should not be running for Prime Minister as she did not have a stake in the future because she didn't have children. The right are ridiculous on both sides of the pond. Well, it's no coincidence that the right on both sides of the pond say the same things. It's because they're paid by the same people. That's where they get their money. Look at the difference in the way that the Republicans make their money and the way the Democrats make their money. The Republicans make their money from a small handful of spectacularly rich billionaires. The Democrats make their money from a vast number of people who give small amounts of money. And the exact same thing is the case in this country. See where the Conservatives get their money? It's a small handful of spectacularly rich billionaires, who, I'm certain, are just giving the money out of the goodness of their hearts and don't want anything in return. The Labour Party, on the other hand, get their money from vast numbers of people who give a small amount each, who know they won't get anything in return. How could they? If individuals withdraw their money, then it ain't going to make no difference to the Labour Party. So there is no there is no payback in that regard, and nor is there any expected. So that's the reason why the politicians on both sides of the pond on the right say the same things. It's because they're the same people, funded by the same people. And if the names aren't exactly the same, just keep digging, and eventually you'll find the connection. Some are good people, I'm certain. 0345 6060 973. Oh, I must do the food story. I haven't done that yet. There was this story that came out when I was ill and I lost my voice and I couldn't do it, but I must do it before I go. Food in the House of Commons and the House of the Palace of Westminster. Don't let me leave without doing that. 0345 6060 973 LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
Oh, hello there. Very nice to meet you.
Hang about, Nick. Listen. Now, what I'm trying to say to you is this, Nick, right?
Trish texts, have you noticed the only thing they can say about Kamala is that she laughs a lot, hasn't birthed children, and swept her way to the top? It's good to see that sexism is alive and well in the Trump camp. Trump said recently once his supporters vote for him, they won't need to vote again, and his cult followers don't see the problem. Yes, Trish, that's because it is a cult. That's what they've joined. It's a religious movement, a phony religious movement with him as their saviour. That's why they don't see a problem for him being their dictator. They would love that. I mean, I'm not making this up. This is the Miami Herald. Trump, whose right ear was injured in the shooting, has himself leaned into the notion that he was saved by divine intervention. As he took to the stage on Friday night at the Palm Beach County Convention Center, Trump told supporters that he was only there thanks to the power of prayer and the grace of Almighty God. One Pennsylvania rally attendee, a 50-year-old firefighter, was killed in the shooting, while 2 other spectators were wounded, so presumably God was having an off day. Or he doesn't like people who put out fires. Putting out fires is woke. Speaking at the summit, Jensen Franklin, a televangelist and the senior pastor of Free Chapel in Georgia, said the attempt on Trump's life was a wake-up call for the country. He recalled a sermon that he preached in 1990 that he called blood-anointed ears, blood-anointed hands, and blood-anointed feet. God, Franklin said, gave Trump blood-anointed ears. I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up. I mean, maybe God really was having an off day, or maybe he was preoccupied with something else, because God could have just diverted the bullet completely. I mean, it could have missed the peach powder puff predator altogether, but believers will just say that's God's way, and that explains everything to them, including how God never answers any of their prayers. It's just God's way of testing me, they say. Jeremiah Johnson, a 27-year-old who travelled to West Palm Beach from Tampa for the summit, recalled how Trump was half an inch from death. It was God who spared the former president's life, he said. If God wanted him dead, he could have pushed the bullet half an inch. Johnson, who described himself as a Christian nationalist, said, but he's here today. So by that reckoning, God wanted to hurt Donald Trump. Maybe it was a warning that Trump is on the wrong path, and God was letting him know that he should repent and change his evil ways. Any one of these pretend Christians say that?
No.
Conservative Republicans have long embraced the notion that their causes have the might of God behind them, but the messaging around Trump's brush with death takes it a step further. Not only did God save the former president, some conservatives argue, but anointed him as the saviour of a country plagued by secularism and moral decay. For much of his life, Trump's personal public persona has been that of a businessman and celebrity rather than that of a devoutly religious conservative. This is a Miami Herald. Talk about understatement. For much of his life, Trump's public persona has been that of a businessman and celebrity rather than that of a devoutly religious conservative. Prior to arrival on the public stage nearly a decade ago, the billionaire real estate mogul was known more as a wealthy playboy who had been married 3 times and expressed moderate views on divisive issues like abortion rights. But now he's been sent by God to save America from moral decay. These people are lunatics. How would you put it, Donny?
I love the poorly educated.
They just keep giving and giving, don't they? The poorly educated keep giving and giving. Mostly money. 0345 6060 973. Cheltenham. Hello, Sam.
I wanted to say a quick thing about Vance.
Yeah.
You quoted someone, I think, called Martin, saying that he tells the truth. J.D. Vance is the 4th name that he's gone by. He was called James David, and he's been called Hamill.
Yeah.
He's on his 4th alias.
Well, it's not an alias. It wasn't something to do with his parents. I mean, I'm not really that familiar with his history.
He did actually choose to change some of it. I mean, it gets boring, but yeah, he changed Donald to David, for example. Yeah, he picked some of this stuff.
But you are right though. For more than 2 decades, he was James Hamill, not J.D. Vance. Yeah, so no idea.
No, I mean, he's very slippery. I also thought, I promise I won't say any rude words, but his account of how he was talked out of being gay by his granny is good. It's in his book called, what is it called?
Hillbilly Elegy.
Yeah, Hillbilly Elegy. And when he was like pre-pubescent, I think he says he was 10 or younger, maybe 8 or 9, he thought he might be gay. He consulted his Meemaw, his granny, and she said, and I'm not going to say any rude words, but she apparently said to him, "You really want to suck D word?"
Oh.
Right, and he said, no. And he was cured then and there.
Well, that's good because I've had my thoughts on that subject myself. It's the eyeliner. It looks to me like he's wearing a lot of eyeliner. That's what tipped me off. I'll say it again. He looks like the guy who took over from Freddie Mercury in Queen.
His pearly eyes. Anyway, and then that's almost all I was going to say. But I'll say a bit more if that's okay. About the Trump sort of thing. But very sinister, rational. The idea of the billionaires behind Project 2025.
Yeah.
I think completely they don't know what to do because the idiot that they sort of aired, Trump.
Yes.
They're lumbered with this idiot.
Well, yeah, for the meantime. But, these people are playing the long game. And if Trump loses, they're not going away. They will redouble their efforts because they're after... and again, the word is countrypreneurship. They're after all of the money and all of the power. And losing with Donald Trump, who is their current useful idiot, that ain't going to dissuade them from their mission, which is to take over.
No, that's not going away. I mean, this puzzle about the greed, this insatiable greed of billionaires, that too much is never enough.
Yeah.
It's an addiction. I've been in recovery for 20 years, and I know from addiction.
Yeah.
These people are addicted to wealth and power.
Completely.
It's, never enough.
I mean, they should just pause for a while, because it doesn't matter how much money you've got. This is a one-way trip, life. You are on a conveyor belt and the end is in sight. What are you going to do in the meantime? Are you going to keep this desperate scrabble for validation, for happiness that eludes you, or just enjoy what you've got now, for crying out loud? How can you be a billionaire and be so miserably unhappy that you still are scrabbling around, desperately trying not to pay taxes and to make more money?
They need to go to Billionaires Anonymous and just, kind of get some support.
Yeah, all right.
That's my bit.
The next time they've got a meeting at Davos, I'll make it a date. Thanks a lot, Sam. 0345 6060 973. Chris says you don't need a degree to see through Brexit and Trump. You just need your brain switched to the on position. Keith says it's funny the right wing in America call themselves pro-life, but they're all pro-death penalty. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Which underlines my feeling about this, and nobody's challenged me on it. I don't think it's about pro-life at all. I think it's about pro-controlling women having sex. They're not supposed to enjoy it. You're supposed to only have sex in marriage for procreational purposes. Men are the ones that are supposed to enjoy it. I think that's what it's all about. It's about controlling women's bodies. And you're right. They're all about pro-life, and up until the moment that the baby is born. Then they don't care. You want medical assistance? Forget it. Have you got insurance? If not, then the car park is waiting for you. Best of luck. You want your child to go to a school and not feel that there's a possibility that some random nutcase is going to stalk the corridors with a military assault weapon? Well, the Republicans would like you to forget that idea, because, they're all for their guns. You ain't taking their guns. I think... for the longest time I thought, I'm not going to America anymore. I mean, I've spent more time in America than any other country outside of this one. On holidays, for like 3-month periods, more. And loved it. Everywhere I went was just great, from, both coasts and all of the bit in the middle. I hitchhiked through... I've seen more of America than almost every American that I met when I was in America. But I just don't think I want to go there now. It just seems a bit too nuts, But maybe that's just a view from afar. Maybe everything will be fine if you just go there and, just open your mouth and speak with an English accent, and maybe you just get a pass. Seven Oaks, hello, Mark.
Hi, I've got some good news, apart from Harris being ahead in the polls. Taylor Swift's tour is planned to go past America at the end of October, beginning of November, when they have their election.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's game over.
Well, she hasn't said one way or the other yet, has she?
Always supported the Republicans and the Democrats.
Democrats, yeah.
Democrats in the
but
past.
She hasn't said anything this time around.
No, but if you look at the opinions of a current lover supporting Black Lives Matter and things like that, I think that she's waiting for the best time to say it.
But the thing is, I mean, what is Taylor Swift's audience? What's the average age of a Taylor Swiftie? I mean, they're about 13. I honestly don't know. I've never knowingly heard any of her music. No, that's not true. Just as a science experiment, I put on my streaming service one of her albums, and I took it off before the first song was over. I thought, this is not for me. This is children's music. So it's just kids who go to a concert, isn't it?
I don't really know, but I'm looking at her more as a politician than a musician.
Yeah. I'd be more interested to know what Bruce Springsteen is going to say, because his fans are 60 plus and they are going to vote. But Taylor Swift's, if they're 18, they probably will be too busy that day.
Yeah, the other thing is, I think that Joe Biden has demonstrated that he has his head screwed on right. I think he had the best presidency this last term that anybody's had in terms of getting things done. He's had a go at stopping Trump, and when he saw that he was likely to fail, he's changed track. And look at the contrast between his relationship with Harris and all of the conservative prime ministers. I mean, in those terms, Harris has kicked him out. Yet he's 100% behind her. They're on the same team. And if Harris is sensible, because Biden has a great skill in terms of bringing people together, work together, when she becomes president, if she uses him as an advisor and a helper, I think that will boost her even more. She will have a better presidency than Biden.
Well, the president is absolutely surrounded by clouds of people who want to advise and cajole, but I'm sure she'll have a direct line to Biden and the Obamas and pretty much any other president in history. I'm sure will be keen to work. Even George W.
Absolutely.
I'm sure he'll be willing to pick the phone up.
Yes, I'm sure. And the other thing is there's a contrast between what happened before when Biden was vice president, because I don't think Obama used him in the way that he could have done. And as a result, he didn't get a lot of things done, and that was unfortunate.
Well, the reason that Obama didn't manage to get as much done as he wanted was the Republicans. But I think it was Mitch McConnell who was forgive me, but I'm not overly familiar with the various job titles, but I think it was head of the Republican in the Senate or the other house. And he went up to Barack Obama on day one, and Obama was saying, I hope that we'll have a fruitful relationship and we can work together to get things done. And Mitch McConnell said, hey, are you kidding? We're not going to let you do anything. We're going to vote against anything. You know what they just did, the Republicans? They voted against a bill to increase or to further the payment of a study to cure cancer. Saying that, writing it down that they did not want Biden to have this win, so they voted it down. That's who those people are.
Yeah. Yes, I see. But Biden, nevertheless, did get Mitch McConnell to go along with a few things earlier on in his presidency. Right. So I mean, he is a good persuader in that respect.
Well, I'm not sure. Is that true? Because Kamala Harris was apparently the person, the vice president who broke the most ties of any vice president in history, which implies that the Republicans all voted no, and the Democrats all voted yes on whatever issue it was, and Kamala Harris had the deciding vote.
Yeah, there's something in the Senate called a filibuster, and I'm not quite sure how it works, but I think they may well have needed a certain amount of cooperation.
You just talk forever, essentially. You mean you talk for a day or more and just run down the clock. That's what they do.
Yes, but I'm not sure whether he got some cooperation in terms of them not doing that.
Well, I'm going to assume that the answer to that is no. But here we are, and better days.
Yeah, I hope so. But anyway, I think that Biden has demonstrated that he's got all his marbles, because he's played this beautifully. I mean, Trump has wasted all this time, including the convention, going against him because he's old, and suddenly Trump is the old one.
He looks ancient now.
Harris.
Yeah, like I said before, Trump looks like he's just aged 10 years in the last 2 weeks. Yeah. All right, good to talk to you, Mark. Thanks for that. 0345 6060 973.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Right, so what are we doing?
Given we are doing a radio show, but it does remind me that I do a podcast with Carol McGiffin, which I do believe you will find a delight. The idea is it's a helpful podcast. It is, in fact, the world's most helpful podcast.
Oh, right, yeah.
The idea is that we solve people's problems. If you have a dilemma that you wish us to have a bash at, then you must send it to the following address: Nick and Carol at global.com. NICKANDCAROL at global.com. But prepare for total satisfaction.
Oh, right, yeah.
Ask for it by name on an internet near you. What's your problem with Nick and Carol? Plymouth. Hello, Julie.
Hello, Nick. Lovely to have you back.
Thanks.
I just wanted to tell you the winner of the ladies' singles at Wimbledon. It was Barbara Krejcikova.
Barbara.
Yes, and she's a Czech girl. Right. And I think Isaac told you that the Spanish chap who won in 2023, won it again this year.
Right.
So you're all sorted now.
Yeah.
Now,
you know what I've just done?
Turned off?
No, I've just forgotten everything that you just said. What's her name again? Don't tell me.
Okay. It's not easy. It's not easy name to say, so I won't. I wanted to... Last night I was listening to everybody texting in and saying, oh, that was a terrible, terrible opening ceremony for the Olympics.
Yeah.
And 2012 was better. Well, of course 2012 was better. We're Brits. And it was all about showcasing Britain. And I love Paris and I quite like France. And it was showcasing everything French. And it wasn't rubbish at all. It was absolutely amazing. Just like we have the Thames with all the landmarks. Yeah. They went down all the landmarks of the Seine, and it was just amazing. I loved it.
Well, I didn't see it after the Lady Gaga bit.
Lady Gaga.
The sound on that was terrible. You'd think that somebody would have been able to figure out sound levels. It was just abysmal. You could barely hear anything that was going on. And she didn't look very comfortable, and nothing about it was particularly worked, I thought. And it seemed a bit odd that they had all the athletes going by during rather than after the show, because that's the boring bit, isn't it? Like, the show's over and then there's 3 hours of people walking into the stadium with their flags, and that's the bit where you go out and go to the pub, and when you come back they're still doing it. It's like the next day they're still doing it. But I do, so having only seen a bit of it, the reaction in the right-wing press is absolutely delicious. Whatever they did, they annoyed all of the right people.
Good.
And I endorse this show.
You're going to love it. I mean, some of it, is not, people in Britain maybe are not cultured enough about France and its culture, but it's like they might not appreciate it. But if you do like that city and you do like French culture, then you'll love it.
But do you think that maybe it's just time to park the show bit? You're not going to get a better production than the British one, which I think, I've seen it 3 times now, and I actually want to go see it again. It's that good. It was just terrific. Despite my initial feeling when I watched it when it was on live in this studio in a tiny little screen, and I thought that was terrible. And I was completely wrong about that. And I've seen it twice since, and I loved it. And the China thing was amazing. I mean, they turned thousands of Chinese slaves, I imagine, into perfectly timed robots with all their drumming and the all of their patterns that they made with people, and it was just amazing. But so you aren't going to beat those 2 shows. So maybe just get on with the games and forget the show part.
I think I disagree with you a little bit, because the reason that we think 2012 is terrific is because we're Brits. Yeah. And possibly other members of other countries didn't think 2012 was that terrific, because they might not have got all the
opening
nuances.
show. Yeah, I'm sure that much of it passed them by. Yeah.
But I'm sure last night most French people thought that their history and their representation was terrific.
Well, I wonder actually what they did think. I don't read French, but I should have done my homework and looked up an English translation of a French newspaper to see what they thought. Don't know.
I think they loved it.
Right.
I think they did. I hope you enjoy it. But I just wanted... It's like you're getting a few golf balls phoning you up, giving... they lighten up. They probably did vote for Brexit, and they're not... anything that isn't British and is not good enough. And I know you're not like that. No. And I loved it, and I hope you do too.
Right. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Oh, good.
If only there was a rainy day this week, I could make an excuse to sit in front of the TV all day long. But I think it's going to be beautiful and sunny and warm. Can you believe that?
No. Get your suntan lotion on it.
I know. Yes. I'll put it all over. All right. Thanks a lot, Julie. 0345 6060 973. Stu says, I'm surprised Trump supporters would go for Vance, given that they don't trust people who can read a book, let alone have written one. Do you remember that interviewer that asked Donald Trump about the Bible? Because he was going on about how he's a Christian and, he loves Christians and Christians should vote for him, and he's a very, very religious person. And the interviewer said, oh, so which part of the Bible is your favourite? And Trump said, "Oh, all of it. I don't want to pick one part, I don't want to play favourites. I like all of it." Yeah, sure you do, Donnie. Sure you do. Elizabeth says, "Nick, you're right. Kamala will win, especially once Taylor Swift comes out and endorses her. This will drive the orange one to even crazier levels, which is a definite cause for concern, but now there's hope." Then now there is hope. Yeah, that's right. Good for you, Joe Biden. You did the right thing at the right time. It must have been tough. I mean, he wanted to be a two-term president, but his mind and his body just wasn't playing along. Some people age different to others. And time was up, and he did the right thing, and he left, and now it's like a brand new day. It's like the world has pulled back from the precipice of a catastrophe and a disaster. Or, as Donald Trump would put it,
the American dream is dead.
Yeah, they talk about being on the dark side. No, now we see the light. Cheryl texts, "I think Suella makes some good points, but she has a terribly blunt and cruel delivery. She needs a good speechwriter to make her come across as more humane." No, that's pretending to be more humane. She should just be more humane, would be a good idea. The person who needs a good speechwriter to be more human, well, that's Liz Truss.
Absolutely.
I'll repeat my observation from yesterday. Liz Truss looks like a shop window mannequin that's been stuck on the top of a robot vacuum cleaner.
That is a disgrace.
Yeah, it is. It's a waste of a good robot vacuum cleaner. Why any TV channel would have her on, spouting her opinions on any subject, let alone who is best to run a country, is just absolutely mystifying to me. But I don't believe that many Americans have actually heard of her. I think the news agents, was it them, or maybe some other American reporter was going around one of Trump's rallies recently. The I can't remember what they call it. When Trump gets anointed as being delivered to us from God, and they were asking, "Who's Liz Truss?" And nobody there had any idea. Do you know who Liz Truss is? Liz who? Used to be the Prime Minister of this country. Oh, no. Not a clue. You made such an impact, Liz Truss, but only in a bad way. Only financially. Don't worry about us. We'll get over it in, 10, 12 years, something like that. 0345 6060 973. 12:30, the news headlines with Tim Daly.
Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbott. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Are you trying to tell me that this is your act?
0345 6060 973. I am determined to do this food story, which I've held over from when I lost my voice. You will be outraged. Let's have Richmond. Aisling.
Hi, Nick.
Aisling.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks.
You feeling better?
Yeah.
Good. It's good to see you back. Good to hear you back.
Thanks.
First of all, with the Olympics, there's an app that shows you all the schedule, which is quite good. You should get it. It's just called the Olympics. Paris 2024. It's good. It's got and it shows all the teams and the results and everything. You should download that. The reason I called in was because I was just curious what. Just to caveat this first to say, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Oh, that's fine. Sorry. Just to caveat it first, I don't agree with anything that Suella Braverman says, but I just
on any subject.
Pretty much on any subject, except maybe no. But I was quite surprised when she was doing James's show during the week.
Yeah.
She was actually, as a radio presenter, I thought she was quite good.
Right.
Like, I thought she was quite competent in that role, which is really strange because whenever she's done...
by competent, do you mean she didn't swear and leave, half-hour gaps of silence?
Yeah, like she was able to kind of... No, like she did kind of navigate it kind of, fairly competently, but it's weird because, like she wasn't... I didn't think she came across as like... nervous, whereas when she's done any political interviews, she seems completely unable to have any media training. So I just thought that it was quite interesting that she nearly seemed natural in the role.
Right, she almost seemed like a real human being.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but I
count that as a success.
I don't know if anybody else thought similar though, because I was wondering if anybody else thought that she kind of. Again, I'm not praising her at all.
No, a little bit. Sounds like it.
No, as in that position.
Not a human being. You're talking about her as a radio show host, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She seemed like she was able to kind of.
Yeah, but it's just talking to people though, Aisling. I mean, that's all it is. It's nothing more than talking.
Yeah, but I don't know. Because there's been a few different people fill in and stuff, and there's some of them people that I would agree with a lot more as politicians, but they maybe haven't fit the role as much. Anyway,
they haven't got it.
Yeah, whatever that is.
Yeah, whatever that is.
I mean, I wouldn't have it. I can barely manage a phone call with you. Do you know what I mean?
Right back at you. If I ever need to prove myself on the radio, I'm screwed.
No, obviously you're good at it too, but I just mean like, the way, I don't know, she didn't seem nervous, I think is what I mean.
All right, good.
Anyway, it's not really, I was just wondering if anybody else thought the same. Yeah. And, with get that app as well, and stop dissing tennis, please. Tennis is great.
I tried to watch Wimbledon this time around, and I tried to watch something that I would actually have an investment in, because there was a Brit right at the beginning.
No, but don't do that.
Whose name I can't remember. And I think he actually won that game, but I dipped out after about an hour, and I thought, you know what, I just can't do this. It's just so boring.
Really? But there's constantly something happening. I'm not going to have that debate with you again, but football's boring. I mean,
come on, Aisling. That's a ridiculous thing to say.
Okay, I'm not even going to go there.
Let's just agree to disagree. All right.
Right.
Okay. Good work. Thanks a lot, Aisling. 0345 6060 973. Another satisfied customer. Andy says, I have seen Utopia and I completely agree. Now, he's not talking about the afterlife or anything like that. He's talking about a television series that I think was on Channel 4 many years ago, about which I've heard nothing since, and it was one of the best things I've ever seen. I mean, the filming of it was superb. The shots and the framing and the colour and everything about it was brilliant. And the story itself, no spoilers, but we kind of went through it a bit. I mean, some conspiracy theorists might say we went through it exactly just recently. So it's well worth seeing. If you haven't seen Utopia, I think there's two versions. There's the British one, which is the one I've seen. I think they made it in America as well. I don't know anything about that. But the British one is brilliant. Anyway, there's more. He says, I've seen Utopia and I completely agree. It's the most disturbing and interesting thing I've ever seen. The electronic soundtrack completely enhances and integrates perfectly with the warped feeling of it. It reminds me a little of Killing Eve, which is also excellent and warped. Chris says, Nick, you're thinking of Have I Got News for You? Oh, this is from quite some while ago now. And Gemma says, Snoop Dogg was a torchbearer at the opening ceremony of the Olympics last night. Doesn't get much better than that. Snoopy, Dog. Hey.
Want to score some pot?
Approximately how stoned was he, do you think? Was he actually floating off the ground? Did he try to smoke the Olympic flame? Phil says, you're still going on about Brexit. Get over it. It happened. The world hasn't ended, and we've all better off for crazy. And we've all better off for crazy. Give it a rest. Phil, I was only talking about Brexit because somebody challenged me that the reason that Brexit hasn't worked is because of John Bercow and Remoaners. So I was just making the opposite case, the case that makes sense, as opposed to your text, which doesn't, and reads, "Are you still going on about Brexit? For God's sake, get over it. Happened. The world hasn't ended, and we've all better off for crazy. Give it a rest," says Phil. Yeah, exactly. Let's have Wanstead. Hello, Sophie.
Hi, Nick. I was fearing for your life the other day.
Yeah, well, I did sound like I was dying.
You really did. You really did. And I was willing you better. But then you must have passed it on because Nick Ferrari one morning was coughing away.
Really?
And Skyfall.
Well, that can't be me, though, because they're not in the building when I'm in the building, and I'm not in the same studio as them, so that's definitely not my fault.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad. And I thought, oh, please let him come back, because you are a bit of a renegade, so in a good way.
I'm a rebel, and I'll never be any good.
My favourite part of the week, Nick.
For a second there, I thought you said you shaved something, but you didn't. You said my favourite part of the week. That's what you said, right?
Yes, I did.
Right.
Yes.
The shaving is not your favourite part of the week. That has nothing to do with it. That's what it sounded like to me. Yeah, I think
no shaving.
Right, I think it's your phone. You need to get a better phone.
This is 2 months old.
Yeah, that phone is going to get you into trouble.
That's true. Now, I'm not advocating violence in any way, shape or form.
But?
Boggles that a man in 1963 in a book depository could shoot the president on a moving cavalcade, which was horrendous and awful, and I think he would have been a great president had he lived. But this fool gets nicked on the air. But it just looked strange, and you sort of referenced that when it happened, because the people in the background didn't move. There was a woman taking pictures with her mobile phone. It's just bizarre and dystopian.
Yes, it was very, very. Everything about it was very weird. But I'm not going to subscribe to conspiracy theories about it not actually having happened or it being set up or anything like that. I'm fully prepared to believe that what we saw is what happened, and apart from the bullet hit Donald Trump, I do think, and the reporters who had inside information from the Secret Service on the day I was talking to on the show as it just had happened, and they said it wasn't a bullet that hit him, it was a piece of flying glass from the lectern, one of the lecterns that he was reading his script off.
It absolutely did happen, because his supporters are loony enough to try and do that, because the man who did it was Republican.
Yeah.
But I completely agree. It was. I heard that man on your show. He said it was the teleprompter.
Yeah, exactly. And but people say, well, he couldn't possibly have been a Republican because he shot at Donald Trump. But you remember John Lennon's killer? He was a fan. You can't get into the mind of somebody who is that disturbed to try to figure out some logical reason as to what it is that they've done. There is no logic to it. Maybe they love them so much that they don't want anybody else to have them in some sort of twisted way.
Absolutely, completely. And it's really disturbing. He keeps on referencing God and the Bible.
Yeah.
Because when the kings had power in this country, there was this idea of the divine right of kings. They were anointed effectively by God, and they had the right. Yes, and they had the right to rule, and they had this idea of the chain of being.
Right.
And the fact that he's referencing that, he's appealing to the really, really baser instincts of the people in the Bible Belt, because if you're religious, fanatically religious, how can anyone argue with the Bible?
Exactly. How can you refuse to send money to a man who has been sent by God?
And I just don't know what's happening in America. How can this fool even be considered for another term in the White House? It's really disturbing. It's disturbing is the only... I wonder about America.
Yeah, me too. We were all very disturbed, feeling that we were on a course to that eventuality. But now the course has changed. Somebody has thrown the switch, and the what's the term in railway speak? The junction box has been raided, and somebody new is in charge, and the tracks are taking us in a different direction, and Donald Trump's head's spinning, doesn't know what to do now.
And also about Joe Biden, one thing I really respect you for, Nick, is that you weren't mean and horrible about Joe Biden. And the man has obviously got something wrong with him cognitively. Yeah. And I don't know why it's acceptable to make fun of people who are old and maybe deteriorating. And I'm glad he's stepped down, because I don't think he could have lasted until November.
No. I mean, he might have been still alive in November, but he was not going to win that election, and he wasn't going to get any better. It was just going to get worse. Donald Trump, on the other hand, has also exhibited all of the things that he was criticising Joe Biden for. He forgets people's names. He misnames. He forgot the name of his own vice presidential pick, J.D. Vance. Couldn't even remember that. He can't finish sentences. He can't get words out. He keeps getting stuck on the wrong word. There's that famous clip of him saying, he was talking about the origins of COVID, and he kept saying oranges, and he couldn't get past saying oranges. He knew it was wrong, but he couldn't find the right word. I mean, these are all signs, as is this, the way he stands. You see a side view of him standing, and he's leaning, almost as, you know that Michael Jackson video where he, I think it's Smooth Criminal, and he's leaning way forward, or almost, it's like defying gravity. Well, Donald Trump's kind of like that, not to that extreme, but it must be an enormous strain on his calves because he's sort of hovering out over what you would think would be the tipping point.
Nick, you know what it is? It's the weight of all that stuff in his hair. That's what it is. It's making him lean forward. But the thing is, you said Biden's ill and would become, more ill. This man's insane, and he's going to become even more insane.
Right. Not that we want to insult him or anything, but insane, you say? Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I think it's worse than that. I think he is completely sane, and he's just playing his gullible crowd for all the money you can get from him. I think it's worse than insane. I think he's not insane. All right, thanks a lot, Sophie. 0345 6060 973 LBC.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Come on, we're running late.
We are running. We're running late. Everything is going extremely well. Don't you worry about that. Could have driven a bus through that gap. I faded up the wrong thing. I'm very, very ill.
He is a very sick and dangerous man.
0345 6060 973. West Devon, hello, Rose.
Oh, hello, Nick. It's just two things. You don't sound ill, my darling, I must say.
Oh.
I'm just trying to sound encouraging.
Thanks.
Why on earth, if one is the Duke of Westminster and the other is a song, why on earth is he scrounging off the taxpayer for his wedding?
Because we're mugs.
Well, this is totally unacceptable, Nick.
It's incredible.
It's unbelievable.
That's this cap-doffing nation. That is this cap-doffing nation in a nutshell.
Yeah, and if the person down the road is getting a little bit of extra benefit...
Oh, yeah, we're going to come down on them like a ton of bricks, yeah.
And he owns vast amounts of countryside.
Well,
do you know this?
Much of London.
Yes, that's right. Yes. But just quickly, I'm saying that because I know you've got not much time left. There's a book by someone called Catherine Short called This Land is Our Land. It's ghastly. I read it once because when you discover how much land the ordinary people are not allowed to tread on. You know, it's owned by people like that. And he is begging for his wedding.
Well, he doesn't have to do he doesn't have to do any.
State.
Yeah, he doesn't have to do any begging. We just voluntarily give it to him because that's our place.
Well, the government does. I mean,
Exactly, on our behalf. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But the other thing is, the other day I was suddenly found myself somewhere in the past. I don't know if that ever happens to you. I mean, really way in a long time in the past. In my life, I'm standing in this large lounge of a shared house that you know what it was like when you're younger.
Is this a dream?
No. This. I was awake, but suddenly, for some unknown reason, I was there and dancing away. We'd been around the pubs, and various people we got friendly with had come back, and we said, "Come and have a party." And there was a record on, and of course, I now feel a fool because I still am holding out against having the internet near me, because I know I couldn't keep off it if it was here.
Yeah.
And I realised I could have just Googled it, but I kept thinking, I bet Nick knows this song.
What is it?
I mean, it's a ridiculous thing. We were stood there singing 369, the goose drank wine, the monkey chewed tobacco on the streetcar line, the line broke, the monkey got choked, and they all went to heaven in a little rowboat.
Clap hands. Yeah.
Clap hands, that's it.
It's the clapping song by I think several people had that song, and it was Shirley Ellis, I think you'll find. Hey, but I better got that right, Shirley Ellis.
That does vaguely ring a bell.
Yeah. But there was quite a few. I'm looking it up now. Oh, Gary Glitter did a version. Should we draw a veil over that? Apparently.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
So.
369, the goose drank wine, the monkey chewed tobacco on the streetcar line.
Streetcar line.
The line broke, the monkey got choked, and they all went to heaven in a little rowboat. That's pretty good memory there, Rose.
Well, this is what I don't understand. I mean, how straight... You need... Talk about having a computer in the house. You've got one on the top of your neck, haven't you? How on earth did I haven't thought of that. Yeah. I don't think since then.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do with mine.
Ago.
I'm going to turn mine off and on again, see if it works any better.
What, your brain?
Yeah. I'll give it a go.
It just suddenly came out of me, you know.
Well, that is bizarre. Any time something else comes out of you, Rose, I want you to make sure you let me know straight away, all right?
Yeah, I promise, yeah.
All right. Okay. Cheers, my dear. Ta-da. 03. Well, I don't know why I'm giving the number out. I'm a little bit too late now. Warren Tech. Oh, maybe I'll do that last. Okay, the food story. It's a good story and it's a bad story. You're probably not going to like it. The largest food bank in the borough of Westminster is calling for an end to subsidised dining for members of Parliament, with the savings redirected towards combating food poverty. And MPs thought about that for less than a second and said,
No.
The North Paddington Food Bank in West London has launched a campaign urging policymakers to use the millions of pounds of our money spent on subsidised catering for parliamentarians to tackle food insecurity. They want MPs to give up a small amount of their vast remuneration and benefits in order to help the less well-off. Funny, no? No. The charity has set up a petition on change.org, which has, at the time that I wrote this, about just over a week ago now. Gosh, I hope it's got more than this now. 70,000 signatures they had since the 1st of July, and after 2 weeks of having it set up. And the aim was to raise public awareness of the £7 million in our money spent by the House of Commons catering services last year. That is £7 million that we poor dopes who pay taxes have spent on their catering. Thomas Delap, who runs the North Paddington Food Bank, said MPs were fine dining on meal deal prices, yet there was no mention of food poverty or food crisis in any manifesto. Despite more than 3 million British people turning to a food bank last year, there was more mention of riverbanks than food banks. And as part of the campaign, a fake menu based on the one served to MPs has been uploaded to Deliveroo under a listing called the Houses of Parliament. They ain't going to deliver no food to you, but this is just an example. And Thomas Delap, who runs the North Paddington Food Bank, said it was galling to think that politicians were eating like kings while people were starving. Yeah, well, never mind about that. Never mind about MPs eating like kings. The blooming king eats like a king while his subjects are starving. He and his extended family of benefits claimants live the life of the richest people on earth while just yards from the walls of their manors, houses, cottages, estates, lodges, mansions, palaces and castles, their capped-offing subjects are sleeping in doorways and eating nothing for breakfast, lunch and dinner. But back to the MPs.
Passing notes in class, secret smiles, lost in each other for miles and miles. First questions blooming like flowers in May. In the innocence of love, we found our way. Innocent love, pure and true, like the morning dew shining anew. Hearts entwined in a tender dance. Innocent love, our sweet romance. In a schoolyard where dreams take flight, we found love in the morning light.
Thomas Delap, who runs the North Paddington Food Bank, said it bleeped me off, basically, to think that MPs are sat there and on our doorstep. We're supporting nearly 8,000 households, 20,000 people each year. Now, the only item actually available, as of the 13th of July, I don't know if it's still available, the only item you can actually buy via Deliveroo is a T-shirt emblazoned with the slogan, "Common as Muck," on the front, and "Support your local food bank" on the back. And plates that Shaw designed as part of the campaign, which read, "Haven't you had enough?" And you've got to eat through the mountain of food on your plate before you see that legend. Haven't you eaten enough? Thomas Delap, who runs the North Paddington Food Bank, said if MPs were eating egg mayonnaise sandwiches on the cheap, I don't think anybody would really care. But when you delve into the extravagantness of the food and what's on offer, that really angers people. So get ready for a bit of anger, with a side serving of fury. Here's a comparison between the price of a meal in the most magnificent Palace of Westminster, what that costs, and a pretty impressive but not as impressive hotel nearby would charge. And I chose a hotel called the Corinthia because it's nearby, it's not as super fancy as, say, the Ritz, and it's got a restaurant run by that bloke off the telly, Tom Kerridge. So start with a martini. Kerridge's price, £17. House of Commons price, £6.40. Afternoon tea with a glass of champagne, Corinthia Hotel, £90. Pugin Room, Palace of Westminster, £21.50. And then let's have dinner, shall we? From the a la carte, to start, the members' restaurant at the House of Commons, pan-seared scallops with celeriac, green apple toasted hazelnuts and a jus burnt butter, £4.95. Kerridge's brown crab royale, confit egg yolk sourdough cracker, £24.50. These are starters. To follow, House of Commons venison, pan-seared red deer with port and juniper braced haunch tartlet, smoked butter mash, black garlic and Bordelaise sauce, £14.80. Kerridge's venison bun, veal sweetbreads, red wine sauce salsa verde, £57.50. And for pudding, House of Commons rich dark chocolate Marquise mousse, light spiced with cinnamon and orange, warm poached pears and a creme fraiche ice cream, £3. Kerridge's chocolate Marquis kirsch cherries creme fraiche ice cream, £19.50. And with it, a nice Australian Shiraz from the Barossa Valley. House of Commons, £27.15. Kerridge's, £190. It's like going back in time to the 1970s. In the House of Commons, you can get a sirloin steak with roast king oyster mushroom, green beans, French fries, roast garlic and parsley butter for $13.90. Sirloin. If you went to a Harvester's, it would be double that. Never mind something as fancy as the members' dining room of the Palace of Bloom in Westminster. And they get to put the cab to take them there and back on expenses, and they get the rent and electric and gas paid on the flat they're living in, and they get child support of over $5,000 a year on each of their children, capped at 3 kids, not 2, like for the rest of us, and they're on £91,346 a year plus £250,000 in expenses, and they're eating 5-star food at McDonald's prices. Are you feeling like you've been had yet? 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 Had yet?